Chapter 28-26. Something is not right. Luli thought of something. Wasn't the ancient temple safe? Inside the temple, he would not be affected at all. He had been here for a long time, but he never had any violent thoughts. This warrior was at the Emperor realm when he came in. How could he not find the temple? When Luli voiced his doubts, the stone statue replied, Do you think this is how the temple used to be? If it were not for the fact that I have spent hundreds of years to set up the runes, you would have been dead. I see. Luli was filled with deep veneration. It turned out that the temple did not have this ability before. It was only because of the warrior at the Emperor realm that the temple became so miraculous. Luli bowed to the stone statue with respect and said, Thank you for saving my life. You have done a great deed. All the disciples that are locked in here will be grateful to you. Call me Swan Master. The forefather smiled and said, All the disciples that are locked in here have been abandoned by the sect. Even if they can survive, what is the point of their lives? Also, what did you do? Me? Luli touched his nose in embarrassment and said, The Holy Lady sect held a Huayang conference and invited all the young people in the world to compete. The sect did not allow their disciples to participate, so I went secretly. When I came back, I was locked up here. That is not a big deal. Swan Master was suspicious and asked, You must have done something else. Yes. Luli smiled bitterly and said, By chance, I took control of their Mount of Goddess and forced them to let go of 2 disciples. This is quite a big deal. Mount of Goddess? Swan Master had been dead for hundreds of thousands of years, but the Mount of Goddess knew about him. He was the most valuable treasure of the Holy Lady sect. He rolled his eyes, thought for a moment, and said, Did you offend someone in the sect? Theoretically speaking, a genius like you shouldn't be locked up here, even if you have done something wrong. If you didn't go to the temple, you would have died 8 years ago. You were in a critical situation back then. I don't know. Luli shook his head. What the Swan Ancestor said did prove that he had been sleeping for 8 years. The Swan Ancestor was right. If Luli had not entered the ancient temple 8 years ago, he would have died. Emperor Rue said the sect locked him up to protect him, but Luli didn't feel like he was being protected at all. He sighed, I don't know what the sect is thinking, and I don't know when the sect will let me out. I can only cultivate here. Ancestor Swan suddenly said, Little Lu, do you want to go out? Of course. Luli's eyes lit up. Then he shook his head and said, Even if I sneak out, it will be pointless. When the sect finds out, they will send someone to bring me back. By then, the punishment will be more severe. They can't catch him. Ancestor God said mysteriously, I know of a secret passage that connects to another great realm. You can go to that great realm to cultivate for a period of time. Once you are strong enough, you can return here. At that time, the sect won't be able to blame you even if they want to. If you cultivated to the peak of the Emperor realm or the Saint Emperor realm, the sect would only try to rope you in. Who would dare to continue punishing you? Another great realm? Luli was surprised. He was trembling. He asked, Ancestor Swan, what kind of realm is that? Ancestor Swan explained, It is called the Central King Realm, the central region of the third heaven. People there even call themselves the third heaven. Hiss. Luli took a deep breath to suppress his excitement. He had been looking for the way back to the third heaven. He didn't expect that he would meet a man who had been dead for hundreds of thousands of years who knew how to go to the third heaven. What is it? Ancestor Swan looked at Luli with doubt and asked, Have you heard of that place? Yes. Luli came to his senses and said, I have read an ancient book. It is said that it is the center of the third heaven. There are as many saint emperors as there are clouds in the sky. There are as many emperors as dogs. I have wanted to go and see it for a long time. I can't. Ancestor Swan shook his head and said, Before I died, I went there. There was a great change. There are no more saint emperors or saint emperors. When I went there, I only saw one saint emperor. I offended him and was hunted down. I had to come back. Because my injuries were too serious, and I was affected by the formation of heaven and earth here, I went mad and committed suicide. Ancestor Swan. Luli cupped his fists to Ancestor Swan and said, Can you tell me how to go? I will go crazy if I stay here. I want to go there and see. I will come back after tens of thousands of years of cultivation. When I become a powerful saint emperor, the sect will look at me in a different light. You want to go? Ancestor Swan's words carried a faint smile. He said, I can tell you, but you have to help me do something first. Okay, Luli answered without hesitation. As long as I can do it, I will do my best. Ancestor Swan said, go out and find my people. When you find them, bring my family patriarch here. I will tell you how to go to the Central King realm at once. But Luli had a headache. He could go out. Brother Chung said that if he wanted to go through the tribulation, he could crush the Jade Talisman and Brother Chung would take him out. But after he went out, he could only go to the tribulation platform. How could he have time to find Ancestor Swan's people? Heaven Emperor sect would not allow him to leave the Heaven Emperor realm. You are worried about how to get out? Ancestor Swan said with a smile. As a matter of fact, there is a way out here that can go directly to the Chonghu region. Out of the Chonghu region, next to it is the Lu Mountain region. If my family is not destroyed, you can find it easily. Luli was overjoyed. He asked, is the Lu Mountain region in the Heaven Emperor dynasty? Of course. Ancestor Swan said, my family is the Yuan family. My name is Yuan Hu. Take my token and go. Bring the current family patriarch here. Not only can I tell you the way to the Central King realm, I can also teach you a soul skill. Kid Lu, your soul is strong. As long as you cultivate your soul, you will become a powerful soul warrior soon. Okay, Luli agreed. Going out from the secret passage, he could go to the Heaven Emperor's city secretly and find someone to bring Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong here. Then he could bring them into this realm of hell and go back to the third heaven together. Everything was perfect. His only regret was that Lord Li and Emperor Rui were kind to him. Also, the Hu family was kind to him. He might not come back after going to the third heaven. By then, he wouldn't know how to return the favor, especially the Hu family. He swore an almighty oath. If he didn't return the favor, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Never mind. Luli soon made up his mind. He would go back to the third heaven first. Nothing would happen to the Hu family in the short term. When he cultivated for tens of thousands of years and became powerful, he would go back to the endless ruins of gods to help the Hu family and repay the kindness of Lord Li and Emperor Ray. Kid, look carefully. Chapter 28-27. At the end of the road, there was a glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. Luli thought he would be trapped in the hell for 1,000 years, or at least hundreds of years. Unexpectedly, he ran into the remnant soul of a great emperor from the Celestial Emperor sect that died in the hell. This great emperor knew the way back to the third heaven. All of this felt so coincidental that Luli felt like he was dreaming. But this great emperor would not lie. Lying to Luli would be pointless. Also, this great emperor had a favor to ask of Luli. Therefore, whether it was true or not, Luli was ready to take the risk. So what if it was false? At worst, he would be locked up in another place by the Celestial Emperor sect for a few more years. If it was true, then he could go back to the third heaven and bring Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong back with him. This was something he had been dreaming about. He memorized the map and found an interspatial ring in a corner according to Swan Ancestor's instructions. Blood Fairy put it on and set off at once without any delay. He went out and took out 3 chariots for Blood Fairy to set up. According to the map, he should not be too close to the exit. It was better to be careful. Whoosh! For hours later, Luli left in his chariot. After Luli left, the statue came to life and could move. The stone skin turned into human skin. The statue put on an enigmatic smile. He smiled meaningfully and sat down cross-legged. The temple became quiet again. After Luli left the temple, of course, he was filled with hostility and his temper became irritable. However, Luli was very excited because he could go out soon. He tried to suppress his irritation and tried to calm himself down. Along the way, he killed beasts and monsters. Almost all the time, Luli used his Dharma form directly. This way, he could kill faster. He did not have to use dragon transformation or tear apart the beasts. This way, he would not become violent and bloodthirsty. 17 days. Luli spent 17 days before he finally found the location marked on the map. He also found the 3 mountains that were like sickles. He wandered around the vicinity of the mountain and found a concealed cave. Following the cave, he discovered a concealed divine rune at the bottom of the cave. He asked Blood Fairy to decipher the runes, and sure enough, there was a passageway. After he entered the tunnel, a ray of white light shone. Luli felt the world was spinning, and then he fell to the ground. He swept a few glances and discovered that he was in a cave within a huge mountain. There were also divine patterns here, but he didn't know who had set them up. He activated the mark of the great Tao to sense it, and a look of ecstasy immediately appeared on his face, because he discovered that the sky outside was so blue and the beautiful sun outside was so dazzling. Everything made him feel as if he had returned to the human world from hell. He took out the mask that Yanzu had given him. This mask could not be seen through unless one was at the Overlord level. There were many Emperor-class experts in the Heavenly Emperor sect, but the Heavenly Emperor dynasty was huge. He couldn't possibly be so unlucky to encounter an Emperor-class expert from the Heavenly Emperor sect, right? He had asked Blood Fairy to set up a few divine runes, afraid that someone would find this place. Then, he rushed out of the mountain. In midair, he couldn't help but want to roar a few times, but he suppressed it in the end. He flew quickly and spent an hour to find a small city. As expected, this was Qianghu region. Lushan region was not far from here, just 1 region away. Luli took the teleportation formation directly. He had many divine stones with him, and he was not afraid of running out. He didn't rest for a moment. He teleported away continuously. In 11 days, he arrived at the Lushan region. On his way, he asked around and learned that there was a family called the Yuan family at the Lushan region. The family was neither too large nor too small. They were once suppressed, but they never perished. Over the years, the family rose again. Their family patriarch was an empress. Luli did not stop at the Lushan region. He teleported to the Lushan city, which was the territory of the Yuan family. He was stopped at the entrance of the city master's residence. Luli was only at the 5th Tribulation Realm. In the endless ruins of gods, a warrior of the 5th Tribulation Realm was a nobody. Lords were everywhere. How could Luli be allowed to go in at will? Give this to your family patriarch. He will send someone to welcome me. Luli took out the token given by Swan Ancestor. That warrior was not entirely convinced. Luli snorted and said, "You will lose your lives if you mess things up." Luli's arrogance had stunned the warriors outside. One of them went into the city master's residence after some thoughts. Not long afterward, an old man hurried over with someone. It was a patriarch of the Yuan family. He cupped his fists and said to Luli, "Honorable guest, my family patriarch has sent me to welcome you. He is waiting for you inside." Luli was relieved. So, Swan Ancestor was indeed the forefather of the Yuan family. Swan Ancestor did not lie to him. Then, there was a great chance that Luli could return to the 3rd heaven. Luli went into the backyard of the Yuan family. Yuan family patriarch was here to welcome him. He showed Luli in with respect. Luli was about to ask something when family patriarch winked at him. Yuan family patriarch told everyone to leave. "My friend, where did you get this token?" Yuan's son, the family patriarch of the Yuan family, asked in a hurry after he left. Luli said with a smile, "Swan Ancestor gave it to me in person. He asked me to bring you there. He wants to see you." "How is that possible?" Yuan's son could not believe it. He shook his head and said, "It is impossible. Swan Ancestor has been dead for so many years." "Yes, he is dead," Luli said with a smile, "but his remnant soul is still here. Otherwise, how can I get the token? How can I find you?" "He is in the realm of hell right now. He asked me to bring you there." "The realm of hell?" Yunsen's eyes flickered. All of a sudden, he asked, "Is your surname Lu?" "That is confidential." Luli made a shushing gesture and said, "If you trust me, then come with me. I will sneak you into the realm of hell. Swan Ancestor wants to see you." "Okay." Yuan-sen nodded. He was excited. He wanted to invite Luli to stay here for a few days. How could Luli dare to do that? The longer he stayed outside, the more likely he would be exposed. Yuan-san was straightforward. He left with Lu Li after he said something. But Lu Li didn't take Yuan's son to the Qianghu region. Instead, he teleported to the Celestial Emperor City. He wanted to bring Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong into the realm of hell, and then bring them back to the third heaven directly. Yuan's son was confused, but he didn't ask. He teleported with Lu Li all the way. After 23 days, Lu Li arrived near the Celestial Emperor City. He found a secret branch of the Hu family. He took out the token given by the Hu family and asked someone to send for Hu Simeng. You are? Hu Simeng arrived after more than half a day. He was confused to see Lu Li in the castle. When Lu Li took off his mask, Hu Simeng gasped and said, "My lord, how come you are here? Ha, it is a long story. It will not do you any good even if you know." Lu Li patted Hu Simeng's shoulder with a smile and said, "Do me a favor. Go to the Wang family and take my letter. Bring my sister and Linglong here. Do it discreetly. Don't let the Wang family know. I will leave a letter for you to explain." Chapter 28:28. Your sister? Linglong? You don't want the Wang family to know? Hu Shimeng seemed to be a simple-minded man with strong limbs. But which disciple born in a big family was simple? He could smell something unusual from the smell. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Lu Li, what are you doing? If you are my brother, help me this time." Lu Li did not explain. He said sincerely, "I will be grateful for your help for the rest of my life. If I have the chance, I will repay the favor 10 times over. As for the reason, don't ask." "All right." Hu Shimeng made up his mind and said, "Wait for my news. I will bring them to you in a day at most." Lu Li wrote a letter in his own hand. There were a couple of sentences about the Heaven Reverse Universe which Lu Ling understood right away. With their cooperation, it would be easy for Hu Shimeng to bring them over. After all, they were guests at the Wang family, not prisoners. Lu Li waited here quietly. In less than half a day, Hu Shimeng came with 2 people. The 2 were overjoyed to see Lu Li. They wanted to ask something, but they didn't since there were outsiders around. They were sensible enough to ask nothing. Lu Li handed over a letter. He thought about it and said, "Brother Hu, this is for your family patriarch, but I hope you can give it to him in a month. Is that okay?" Hu Shimeng had a bad feeling. If Lu Li wanted to meet the family patriarch, Hu Shimeng could arrange it for Lu Li. Lu Li didn't meet the family patriarch, but left a letter. It felt like he was leaving his last words, wasn't it? Hu Shimeng didn't take the letter after a moment of hesitation. Instead, he said with concern, "Lu Li, don't be impulsive and do something stupid. Don't worry." Lu Li patted Hu Shimeng's shoulder with a smile and said, "I will not do anything stupid. We will meet again, but it will take some time. The next time we meet, I will be at least at the Emperor realm and a powerful one. By then, I can repay the Hu family." All right. Hu Shimeng didn't want to ask more questions. He knew Lu Li wouldn't tell him. Hu Shimeng took the letter and said, "Lu Li, be careful. Don't talk about favors or repayment. I don't have many friends. You are one of them. I hope you can live well. See you later." Lu Li nodded with a smile. He left with Lu Ling, Xiang Linglong, and Yuan Senator. The 4 of them teleported away quickly without taking a break. Lu Li didn't waste time talking to Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling. He just sent a message to them. "I will explain later. Let's go." Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong did not know where Lu Li was taking them. How did Lu Li get out from the hell? What would the consequences be if the Heavenly Emperor sect knew about this? They didn't know this, but they had absolute trust in Lu Li. Even if Lu Li were to lead them to death, they wouldn't blink. Along the way, Lu Li was nervous, fearing that the powerful warriors of the Heaven Emperor sect would come after him. By the time they teleported to the Qianghu region, there were no pursuers. Lu Li could finally put his mind at ease. He led the 3 to the entrance and entered the Hell Realm. Only when they were inside did he feel relieved. He explained to Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling with a smile, "Sis, this is the Hell Realm." Hell Realm? Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong looked at each other in astonishment. Why would Lu Li bring them to the Hell Realm? Was there some land of treasures, and he wanted to bring them here to cultivate? But why would he bring the family patriarch of the Yuan family with him? There's a passageway here that can lead us back to the 3rd heaven. Lu Li didn't keep it from them. He sent a message to them. This time, the two were stunned. Then, their eyes were filled with excitement. But since there were outsiders here, they didn't show too much emotion. Let's go. Lu Li took out the chariot and let them in. The Yuan family patriarch said nothing. It seemed that he only wanted to see the swan ancestor and was not interested in anything else. They ran into many beasts along the way, but Lu Li didn't let them fight. Every time, he would release his Dharma form and kill the beasts. Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long exclaimed that Lu Li's abilities had become so ferocious. Yuan Sun was shocked as well. When Lu Li first came to the Hell Realm, his abilities were only comparable to the Lord Realm. But now he had made a huge leap. They had been cultivating hard, but they had just reached the sixth tribulation, and their realms were stabilized at the initial stage of the sixth tribulation. After Lu Ling transformed, she was as strong as a warrior at the middle stage of the sixth tribulation. But compared to Lu Li, there was still a huge gap. After more than a dozen days, the four arrived at the temple. Inside the temple, the swan ancestor was no longer sitting on the ground. He had become a stone statue again. When Yuan Sun saw the swan ancestor, he kowtowed to the swan ancestor in excitement. Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long were confused, but they said nothing. Wait in the outer hall. I will have a chat with Lu Li. The swan ancestor's voice made Yuan Sun even more excited. He left with respect at once. Lu Li threw Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long a look. They were sensible enough to leave. Good. The swan ancestor nodded and said, Lu Li, this man is indeed a descendant of a Yuan family. He has my blood in him. You help me do something, and I will fulfill my promise. Look carefully. The swan ancestor drew 2 maps in midair. Lu Li memorized them carefully. The swan ancestor warned, this is a dangerous path. There will be turbulence in space. It is easy to get lost. You have origin energy, but you must be careful. Don't get sucked in by the turbulence in space. Otherwise, you may never find the Middle King world or the endless ruins. You have to remember 3 landmarks. The swan ancestor continued. From here to the Middle King world, there are 3 seas of stars. Outside the Middle King world, there's a large sea of stars. As long as you can find this sea of stars, you can find the Middle King world. Thank you, swan ancestor. Lu Li bowed. Lu Li. The swan ancestor's tone became serious. He said, no matter where you go, you must always remember the kindness of the Heaven Emperor sect. You are apprenticed to the Heaven Emperor sect, right? A teacher for a day, a father for life. When you go to the Middle King world and become a powerful warrior, you must remember to come back to the sect. This is your home, and the powerful warriors of the sect will always be your family. Lu Li nodded and said, I know, swan ancestor. I am indebted to the sect. Lord Li and my master are very kind to me as well. If one day I can achieve something, I will come back to repay the kindness of the sect. That is good. The swan ancestor continued. I will teach you a secret skill of the soul. This is a super secret skill created by a saint king of the sect. If you can learn it, your soul attack will be greatly improved. Thank you, swan ancestor. Lu Li bowed again and added, if I can achieve something in the future, I will take care of the Yuan family. Buzzing, the eyes of the stone statue glowed. Then a ray of light shot into Lu Li's mind. Lu Li sorted it out and realized it was information about a secret skill. He recorded all the information and bowed again to express his gratitude. Go, the swan ancestor said lightly. Lu Li left after he expressed his gratitude and left with Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long. After Lu Li and the others left, the stone statue glowed again and turned into a living person. The swan ancestor walked out of the hall, looked at where Lu Li left, and said, an eagle must spread its wings and fly. Lu Li, I hope you will not disappoint me. Chapter 28-29. Buzzing. Faint white light appeared on Swan Ancestor and Yuan Sen's faces, and then their expressions changed. If Lu Li were here, he would be surprised. Yuan Sun had turned into lordly, or in other words, Yuan Sun was lordly in disguise. In other words, Lordly had been watching all of Lu Li's actions, including Hu Shimeng taking Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong away. It was a setup from beginning to end. Whoosh! From a distance came two streaks of white light. Two people landed in the temple. One of them was a sage-like old man, and the other was Lu Li's teacher, Emperor Rui. They landed in the temple. Lord Li bowed to the sage-like old man and said, "Greetings, Master." Emperor Rui bowed to Swan Master as well and said, "Greetings, Master." Swan Master's name was indeed Swan Master, but not the deceased emperor. Lu Li did not know about the Celestial Emperor sect, ancestor who truly existed, but his identity was the oldest and most mysterious sacred emperor of the Celestial Emperor sect, Yuan Hu. Last time, when Lu Li sneaked to the Holy Maiden sect, it was this Swan Master who sent Lord Li to rescue him. Otherwise, Lu Li would have been dead. Emperor Rui was confused. Master of the Celestial Emperor sect seemed to have understood. He looked at Swan Master and asked, "Uncle Hu, has he left?" "Yes." Swan Master nodded. "Given his abilities, I don't think there will be any problem. He will be able to reach the Middle Realm." "Swan Master," Emperor Rui could not help but ask, "why did you let Lu Li go to the Middle Realm? I heard that there are not many powerful warriors there, but there should still be Saint Emperors. Also, Lu Li has not formed his body. He is impulsive and reckless. If he dies there, it will be a great loss." Emperor Rui was not the only one who had this question. Master and Lord Li shared it. It was just that the two could not ask too much. They had 100% trust in Ancestor Swan. Swan Master stroked his beard and said, "Why did you let him go to the Middle Realm?" "Because cultivating here will disturb his mind. He will never be able to reach the Emperor Realm, let alone the Saint Emperor Realm." Lord Li was confused. He asked, "Swan Ancestor, it was you who wanted Lu Li to come to the Hell region. Why did you say that cultivating here would disturb him? If he doesn't feel at ease here, we can let him out after a few years." "I'm not talking about the Purgatory Realm, but the boundless divine ruins." Ancestor Swan shook his head and said with a light laugh, "This boy isn't someone from the endless divine ruins at all, but came over from a Middle King realm. Even those two little girls are people from that side. He has family and clansmen in a Middle King realm. Do you think he can cultivate here in peace?" Lord Li and the Rui Emperor were both stunned, but the sect master seemed to have known this long ago, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. Lord Li reacted very quickly, and it only took him a few moments to regain his composure. He asked in confusion, "Then shouldn't we let him go? He's not from the endless divine ruins, so I'm afraid he won't be able to come back." The Rui Emperor also nodded in agreement. This would be the same for anyone else. His home was not here. His roots were not here. Once he went back, why would he come back? What if he was detained by the Celestial Emperor sect? Unless Lu Li reached the Saint Emperor realm, then he would come back for a trip, but his mind would not stay in the Celestial Emperor sect, and he would not devote his life to the Celestial Emperor sect. "Your vision is still too narrow." Ancestor Swan shook his head and said, "You only have your eyes on the endless divine ruins on the Celestial Emperor sect, but you have never thought about the entire world. 100 years ago, I did a divination. 3,000 years later, the endless divine ruins will face a super disaster, and we, the endless divine ruins, cannot survive this disaster. Back then, I predicted a chance of survival, but this chance showed up in the outer space. For 100 years, I could not figure it out until I saw Lu Li, and then I knew where this chance came from." "What?" Lord Li and the Rui Emperor were shocked again. This Ancestor Swan was the most powerful and mysterious person in the Celestial Emperor sect, and he had never been wrong in divination. He predicted that there would be a disaster in the endless divine ruins, and this disaster had to be solved by Lu Li. 3,000 years was a long time, but for everyone, it was too short. For people of Ancestor Swan's level, one closed-door cultivation would take 1,000 years. Lu Li's combat ability might be comparable to the Emperor realm, but how much could he improve in 3,000 years? Even if he was lucky enough to reach Lord Li's level, it would still be ridiculous, right? Even if Lu Li reached the Saint Emperor realm, so what? The Celestial Emperor sect had 4 Saint Emperors, and Ancestor Swan's strength was unfathomable. Did Ancestor Swan mean in 3,000 years, Luli could surpass him? How was that possible? Not only the Rue Emperor and Lord Li, even the master of the Celestial Emperor's sect found it hard to believe. It was not that they didn't believe Ancestor Swan, but this matter was too unbelievable. Even if Lord Li was given 30,000 years, he was not sure he could reach the Saint Emperor realm, let alone Ancestor Swan's level. Also, worlds above the fourth heaven had collapsed, and the Rue Emperor and Lord Li could not figure out what could threaten the endless divine ruins. Where did the disaster of the endless divine ruins come from? Ha. Ancestor Swan seemed to have seen through the two's thoughts, and said with a smile, "Worlds above the fourth heaven have indeed collapsed, but have you ever thought why worlds below the fourth heaven would collapse? More than a dozen worlds above the fourth heaven have collapsed, but what about the smaller worlds? This world contains many shocking secrets. Don't think that this world will always be so peaceful." Lord Li and the Rue Emperor were stunned again. With their shrewdness, they could keep a straight face in the outside world, but the news that Ancestor Swan brought them today was too shocking, so much so that they could not stay calm. Why would worlds above the fourth heaven collapse? What kind of shocking event had happened back then? This was the question that lingered in the minds of countless people in the third heaven and the endless divine ruins. Even Ancestor Swan did not know about this. Maybe Ancestor Swan had calculated something, but he was not willing to say it, not even the master of the Celestial Emperor's sect. The Rue Emperor pondered for a moment, and finally asked a question. "Ancestor Swan, what is so special about Luli? Why do you value him so much?" "He is a seven tribulation body of natural malice." So, is that little girl with him who cultivates the frost intent?" Ancestor Swan was silent for a moment, but still explained, "Of course, a seven tribulation body of natural malice does not mean anything. It is just a possibility of becoming a Saint Emperor. What I value about him is that this kid's realm of magic is different from others." Different? Lord Li and the Rue Emperor looked at each other, confused. A realm of magic was a realm of magic. What was different? The master of the Celestial Emperor sect was also confused. Ancestor Swan sighed and said, "I can sense your realms of magic, but his, I can't sense it at all. What is more, a five tribulation realm can form a realm of magic, which in itself means that his realm of magic is unusual. In addition, I made a divination 100 years ago, so I am sure that if this kid does not die, he will soar to the sky, surpass all of us, and even reach a point where we can only look up to him." At this moment, Lord Li and the Rue Emperor understood. Luli did not belong here. Instead of restraining him, it was better to let him go. He was indebted to the Celestial Emperor's sect, and he owed the Hu family a favor. Luli was a man who valued friendship. Once the endless divine ruins was in trouble, Luli would not sit by and do nothing. Luli, have a safe journey. Chapter 28:30. 18 days. Luli flew for 18 days with Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling and finally found the way out. On the way, he told them everything. Lu Ling raised many questions, none of which Luli could answer. There was no doubt that Luli was very talented. Whether it was in the third heaven or the endless ruins, he would be a top talent. How could a powerful force continue to prosper? What he relied on were the outstanding disciples from generation to generation. Powerful warriors would grow old and die. Without a reserve of talents, the sect would decline and die sooner or later. Any family and force would value the reserve of talents. People like Lu Li would be welcomed and valued by all forces. It was illogical for Lu Li to be imprisoned in the Hell Realm, not to mention that he almost died in there. Even if he was imprisoned, there must be powerful warriors protecting him in secret. At least, it was guaranteed that Luli would not die. When Luli came here, he was in a bad state. He might have lost his mind, let alone died. In that case, if there were powerful warriors protecting him, how could he not do something? Then there was the Swan Ancestor. It was not that no one was imprisoned in the Hell Realm. Why did the Swan Ancestor ask for help when Luli came? Also, The swan ancestor had been to the third heaven. The swan ancestor knew the way out of the hell realm to the heaven emperor dynasty. Why didn't the swan ancestor go out himself? With such a powerful remnant soul, it would be easy for him to control a beast, not to mention flying out himself. There was another loophole. How did the swan ancestor know the way out? How did he know that he could reach the Chong-Hu region after leaving that way? It meant that he had been out. If so, why didn't he go to the Yuan family himself? Also, his remnant soul could easily enter Lu Li's body. Wouldn't it be better for Lu Li to take him to the Yuan family? Why did he have to let Lu Li bring the Yuan family patriarch in? There were too many doubts. Lu Li didn't think too much before. He just thought that even if something happened, he would be imprisoned for a few more years at most. After Lu Ling's analysis, he found many problems. The swan ancestor wouldn't harm him for no reason. Outsiders could not get in here. Also, the swan ancestor must have been to the third heaven. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such a clear understanding of it. The swan ancestor shouldn't know that Lu Li came from the third heaven. Therefore, after much thought, Lu Li and Lu Ling decided to go in and have a look. If it was not the way to the third layer of heaven, they could return. Most importantly, Lu Li had a feeling that the swan ancestor wouldn't harm him. The war chariot stopped above an abyss. According to Ancestor Swan's map, the exit was at the bottom of the abyss. Lu Li didn't think too much about it. He controlled the chariot and slowly flew towards the bottom of the abyss. Roar, roar, there were ferocious beasts at the bottom of the abyss. Two deafening roars resounded throughout the abyss. Lu Li dashed down, released his Dharma form, and killed the two beasts. He found a passageway at the bottom of the abyss. It was a passageway that glowed with blue light, and there were obviously divine patterns on the outside. Lu Li asked Blood Fairy to have a look. She realized that the patterns were only used to repel beasts. Go! Lu Li shouted and rushed into the tunnel with Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. The three of them saw a blue glare, and then they were surrounded by darkness. After a while, they sensed something was wrong. The surroundings were still pitch black, but the aura here was exceptionally desolate, cold, and ancient. It was as if this space had existed for hundreds of millions of years. The space here also made people feel very small, as if they had become a grain of sand in the ocean. There is light in the distance. We should be in the real void. Lu Li shouted. He felt there was no gravity here. He was floating in the air. He felt a gentle breeze. It was Xiang Linglong's psychic power. Lu Li was surprised. He released his psychic power, and it was true that his psychic power was no longer restricted. He used psychic power to check, and found a dark cave behind him. That must be where they came out from. From this cave, they could return to the endless ruins as well. Well, let me make a mark. Lu Li thought about it, and took out a weapon. He crushed it and scattered it around him. There was no gravity here. Therefore, the pieces of the weapon would not fall down. They just floated in the air. Let's go. Lu Li was a bit excited. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were blushing as well. This place was exactly the same as on Ancestor Swan's map. It was very likely that Ancestor Swan did not lie to Lu Li. This way could lead them back to the third heaven. Blood Evil King also said that in order to go back, they must go through the void. The endless ruins and the third heaven were two completely different worlds. To go from one world to the other, apart from going to the fourth heaven, the only way was to go through the gaps between the worlds. Lu Li held Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling's hands. Nobody knew what was going to happen here. Anyhow, Lu Li wanted the three of them to stay together. Even if something were to happen, it would be better for the three of them to face the consequences together. Lu Li remembered the map Ancestor Swan gave him. There were two maps. One was the map of the hell. The second map was the one in the void, showing him the way to the third heaven. Lu Li flew forward toward the place where there was light. In the void, he felt he was moving faster. After all, there was no gravity here. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were not as fast as Lu Li. They stopped flying and let Lu Li carry them. It was pitch dark everywhere. There was only a bit of light in the distance. Even though they could see the light, Lu Li and the others had been flying for 2 hours. They still felt the light was far away. It was so quiet that it was suffocating. Luli took out the heaven separation bead and went in. Soon he came out and said, "You two go in and cultivate. I will fly on my own." "No," Xiang Linglong said stubbornly. "I will not go in. I want to be with you." With that said, Xiang Linglong remembered that Lu Ling was here. She lowered her head shyly. Lu Ling smiled gently and said, "Okay, teleport me in. I will not disturb you two from lovey-dovey." "Sis," Luli smiled in embarrassment, but he sent Lu Ling in anyway. Xiang Linglong leaned over and said to Luli, "Even if this is the way to the underworld, I will go with you. I don't want you to be alone. Don't leave me behind, okay?" Luli was touched. She used to be like an iceberg. Now, she was saying such affectionate words. How could Luli not be moved? Holding Xiang Linglong in his arms, Luli said with a smile, "When we get back to the third heaven, I will go to the Xiang family and ask for your hand in marriage. But, you know I have several wives. I don't think the Xiang family will agree." A trace of sadness appeared on Xiang Linglong's face. She was a proud woman, yet she had to share a man with other women. This inevitably made her feel somewhat uncomfortable. But thinking of the past, she said with determination, "If they don't agree, I will elope with you. What's more, you are more powerful than our forefather. I don't think the family will say anything." The Xiang family didn't have a warrior of the emperor realm. Luli could defeat a quasi-emperor now. Not only would the Xiang family not object, they would be happy. Ha ha ha, let's go. Chapter 28:31. Being a stranger in a strange land. One would miss one's family more than ever on festive occasions. The endless ruins was nice, and the Celestial Emperor sect treated Luli well. That being said, Luli and the twins had no sense of belonging to the endless ruins. They felt this was just a stop on their journey. Their family was at the third heaven, but their roots were not here. Home. This was what many wanderers were looking forward to, and it was something to be happy about. Luli and the twins were on their way home. They were not sure if this was the way back to the third heaven, but they were excited nonetheless. In the endless void, Luli and Xiang Linglong chatted along the way. After they came back from the Holy Maiden sect, Luli did not have much time to spend with Xiang Linglong before he was locked up in the hell. It had been 8 years since he left. One could imagine how depressed Xiang Linglong must have been. Finally, nobody could separate them anymore. Xiang Linglong had a cold temperament, but she chatted with Luli along the way. She was like a young girl who had her first awakening of love. Luli talked a lot as well, but he only talked about his sufferings in 1 or 2 sentences. The two of them chatted as they flew. Time passed quickly. Half a month passed by in a blink. Luli arrived at the first sea of stars. Along the way, they saw space turbulence whooshing by like a meteor shower. It was quite beautiful. Luli had seen the spatial gold debris and encountered the worms of the void there. This one was similar to the spatial gold debris, but more horrifying and larger. A space turbulence whooshed by. It could affect an area with a radius of more than 3,000 miles. Looking from the distance, it was quite shocking. Luli used the trace of the Great Tao to enhance his senses. Often, before space turbulence came close, he could sense it and avoid it. When they arrived at the first sea of stars, Luli was relieved. Swan Master did not lie to him. This way really could lead to the third heaven. This sea of stars is so beautiful. Looking at the sea of stars in the distance, Xiang Linglong felt intoxicated. Not only were there shining stars in that sea of stars, but there were also many colorful streams of light. It looked like a celestial world. Luli hovered in the air with Xiang Linglong. He didn't go closer because the sea of stars was surrounded by space turbulence. Swan Master had said that they could not be sucked in by space turbulence or they would be lost. Luli, Xiang Linglong thought for a moment, then pointed to the distant sea of stars and said, "Do you think there might be an immortal palace over there? Are there immortals living inside?" "Immortal palace?" Luli smiled, pinched Exquisite Elephant's nose, and said, "There are no immortals in this world. I used to think that immortals were immortals, but now I know that immortals are just martial artists who are more powerful than humans." "Not necessarily." Xiang Linglong shook her head and retorted, "Think about it. Compared to mortals, we are already immortals. because we can make the heavens fall and the earth crack with just a wave of our hands. We can still live for hundreds of thousands of years. Above us are the emperors and saint emperors. What about those above Saint Emperor? When a martial artist's strength breaks through to a certain level and completely jumps out of the laws of heaven and earth, will they be able to live as long as heaven and earth? An emperor level being able to create a Dharma realm. It was said that this Dharma realm was an independent small world. Then what about the sage emperor's Dharma realm? What about those above Saint Emperor? Would it be possible to create a real big world? If you can create a great world, can't you live as long as the heavens and be immortal? Luli paused for a moment. What Xiang Linglong said made sense. Immortals represented immortality, represented longevity as long as the heavens, and represented omnipotence. They were cultivating the fundamental principles of laws, which was to borrow the strength of heaven and earth and the power of laws. As their strength grew, they would be able to borrow more and more of the strength of heaven and earth. When a warrior reached a certain level, he could borrow the strength of heaven and earth and control the laws of heaven and earth. Would he be an immortal? Birth, aging, sickness, and death. This was the cycle of reincarnation, the law of heaven and earth. But when a warrior mastered the laws, wouldn't it mean that the laws of heaven and earth could not restrain him? Wouldn't it mean that he had jumped out of the cycle of reincarnation, becoming an immortal? This was a vague legend, but it didn't mean that everyone would dream of becoming an immortal. Being an immortal was too far away for them. Maybe only after reaching the Saint Emperor could they consider becoming an immortal. There were no Saint Emperors in the third heaven. Reincarnation Emperor and the others could not become Saint Emperors, so why would they consider becoming an immortal? Let's go. After a while, Luli took Xiang Linglong's hand and flew to the distance. What was there in the sea of stars? Whether it was the immortal palace or not was not something Luli should worry about. He didn't have the power to go near the sea of stars. What he should do now was to find the other two sea of stars and find a way back to the third heaven. He used psychic power to check on Lu Ling. She was cultivating quietly with a gentle smile on her face. She seemed to be at ease. Luli grinned. With Lu Ling by his side, he would feel at ease and at ease. Nothing happened along the way. After more than half a month, Luli finally arrived near the second sea of stars. Looking at the sea of stars in the distance, Xiang Linglong suddenly shouted, "Look, Luli, I see the immortal palace in the sea of stars." Luli took a look. His pupils contracted. Among the colorful lights outside the sea of stars, he could faintly make out the shape of some palaces. The colorful lights were like a mirage. Luli could see groups of magnificent palaces in there, dazzling and enchanting. Luli observed for a while, but didn't know what was going on. He didn't dare to go closer. If there really were immortal palaces here, then there must be powerful beings. They would be killed in an instant if they went near. Let's go. Luli held Xiang Linglong's hand and flew away, keeping a low profile. They went around the sea of stars. Inside, Luli was shocked and confused. Did immortals really exist? The scene in the light could not have appeared for no reason. It might be a mirage, a miniature of the sea of stars. Then why were there so many palaces in the sea of stars? Could it be that there were many powerful worlds and races here as well? Immortals? Luli didn't believe it. If there were immortals in the world, then there must be some clues and some mysterious legends passed down. But as far as Luli knew, immortals were just something many people in the third heaven imagined. After another month, Luli and Xiang Linglong arrived at the third sea of stars. There were turbulences in space, as well as colorful lights shuttling back and forth in the sea of stars. Among the lights, some palaces could be vaguely seen, mysterious and dazzling. Luli didn't dare to go closer. He took a detour at once. Both he and Xiang Linglong were excited. The third heaven was near this sea of stars. As long as they could find the entrance, they could go back to the third heaven. We are finally back. Chapter 28:32. The third heaven had been peaceful. Defeating the abyss of Asmodeans was still a long way off, but at least the two battlefields were stabilized. Over the years, many reclusive, powerful warriors came out. 6 of them were as powerful as the reincarnation emperor. 3 came from each side to stabilize the situation. When Luli blew up the Asmodeans' altar, the abyss of Asmodeans had no more materials to build altars. Therefore, the Asmodeans hadn't summoned the Asmodean Lord all these years. The other powerful warriors from the region of Doom couldn't breach the humans' defense circle, let alone take control of the third heaven. Similarly, humans couldn't fight back either. The abyss of Asmodeans had been in operation for so many years that many mysterious formations had been built. Even great Emperor Realm warriors could die in the abyss of Asmodeans, let alone regular warriors. Nobody knew what the powerful warriors of the human side were thinking. They never launched a major attack. Instead, they organized small-scale battles. The 2 sides would attack one another. It was more like a training exercise. Over the years, many powerful warriors of the human side had passed away, but many more were born. Almost all the big families in the third heaven had offered a large amount of resources. Anyone who could kill warriors from the abyss of Asmodeans or make a contribution would be rewarded with resources. Some treasured lands, such as the primitive secret realm, were also open to them so that they could improve their abilities quickly. The best resources in the third heaven were in the hands of the big families and forces. Many young warriors were not talented. They just didn't have the chance. Now, the chance was given to them. The talented warriors were working hard. Those who survived several battles could improve their realms and abilities quickly. The third heaven had been peaceful in recent years. The big families and forces had been restraining themselves in the face of formidable enemies. Even if they had grievances, they would put it aside for now. Killing each other would only make the abyss of Asmodeans laugh. Moreover, a few powerful great emperors had also said that if they were to act recklessly, they would step in and intervene. The northern side had been very peaceful recently, but the southern side had been somewhat turbulent recently. The reason was, Luli's family had come to the chilly winterland. Luli had many enemies in the third heaven. His 2 biggest enemies were Phoenix Queen and the Wu family, where Emperor Yang was. Phoenix Queen and Luli had been enemies for many years. When Luli passed by the Windland, a senior warrior of the Shan family died because of Luli, not to mention the Wu family. At the Blazing Island, Luli used thunderbolts to kill some patriarchs and warriors of the Wu family, which disgraced the Wu family. Back then, when Luli was conferred the title of General of Bravery and Fortitude, Queen Phoenix and Emperor Yang were not happy about it. But considering that Luli had died and he had made a great contribution, the 2 families said nothing. However, Luli's family had come to the third heaven, and they were at the territory of the Yin family at the chilly winter continent. This was like a slap to the faces of the 2 families. Most importantly, the experts of the Wu family and the Shan family were in the chilly winter continent. Wasn't this forcing these people to take action? Back in the days, Luli disgraced the 2 families. Now that he was dead, his family members were living a comfortable life right under their noses. The warriors of the 2 great clans had to block the Demon Abyss Army's front line, which was equivalent to indirectly protecting the Lu clan. The family patriarchs of the 2 families didn't care about this, and they wouldn't go after the Lu family. That being said, some patriarchs of the 2 families couldn't stand it anymore. Some patriarchs of the 2 families gathered together and came up with a solution. Wasn't the Yin family protecting the Lu family? If the Yin family was destroyed, wouldn't the Lu family be wiped out as well? The warriors of the Lu family were weak. It was said that Luli's wives were at the 2nd or 3rd tribulation realm. What was the difference between them and ants? Without the Yin family, they would die instantly. What was more, the Yin family and the Wu family had always been enemies. Emperor Zi died in the hands of Emperor Yang. The crippled Zen master killed many warriors of the Wu family to get revenge. The Wu family had always wanted to wipe out the Yin family. They were just worried about the several Emperor Realm warriors of the chilly winter continent. Of course, the 2 families didn't show up directly. Otherwise, if the reincarnation emperor were to look into it, there would be trouble. If the truth was exposed, the 2 families would be condemned by the public. Luli was a man who had made great contributions to the third heaven. The patriarchs of the two families secretly contacted the family patriarch of the Tsang family. The Tsang family and the Yin family were sworn enemies. Back in the days when they were fighting for the Hall of the Seven Tones, Luli even killed Tsang Long, the most powerful young master of the Tsang family. With the support of the two Emperor realm families, the Wu family was backed by the powerful Emperor Yang. The Tsang family didn't hesitate. They were only against the Yin family, not Luli's family. The two families have been enemies for generations. Who could say anything? Therefore, the two families have been in conflict recently. First, the young generation of the Tsang family and the Yin family had conflicts. They killed several young masters and young ladies. Then, patriarchs of the Tsang family attacked several secret forts of the Yin family and killed thousands of warriors of the Yin family. A patriarch of the Yin family was so angry that he went to a small city of the Tsang family in person and killed all the warriors of the Tsang family. When the higher-ups of the Yin family got the news, the crippled Zen master told his men to restrain themselves. At the same time, he sent someone to see an emperor of the chilly winter continent, Emperor Chu. He asked Emperor Chu to send a message to the Tsang family and asked them to restrain themselves. The crippled Zen master didn't want to have internal conflicts when they were facing a formidable enemy. Instead of dying in the hands of humans, they might as well fight to the death at the demonic abyss. Emperor Chu and Emperor Zi were on good terms. The reason why the Yin family could survive all this time was because of Emperor Chu. Otherwise, the Yin family would have been wiped out by the Wu family. Unfortunately, Emperor Chu was injured in a fight with a powerful martial artist at the demonic abyss and had been recuperating in seclusion. An patriarch of the Chu family came to mediate the conflict between the two sides. However, the Tsang family didn't give him any face and clamored to make the Yin family pay the price. Seeing that there was no way to mediate, the martial artist of the Chu family reported this person to the other two martial emperors of the chilly winter continent, hoping that they could send a message to suppress the Tsang family. However, the two martial emperors kept quiet. The Chu family felt something was wrong. They made some discreet inquiries and understood why the Tsang family was so arrogant this time. It seemed that they weren't looking for trouble. There was a powerful force supporting them from behind. When an elder of the Chu family vaguely sent a message, the entire Yin family felt a chill. The Yin family immediately made arrangements to transfer many of their young disciples into the mystic dimension. The Yin family had been here for generations. They couldn't leave their homeland and move to other continents. The crippled Zen master sent a message. If the Tsang family went overboard, they would fight to the death. On the other side, the crippled Zen master sent someone to send a message to the reincarnation arch. After all, Lu Li and the reincarnation arch were on good terms. The Lu clan could come to the third heaven only because the reincarnation the arch sent a message. If the reincarnation the arch gave the order, the Tsang family wouldn't dare to act recklessly even if they were given 100 guts. Although the message was sent, everyone in the Yin family had started to prepare for war. The entire Yin family was filled with a murderous aura recently. This time, it wasn't a war with the Tsang family. Some powerful forces were preparing to wipe out the Yin family. If anything went wrong, the Yin family might be wiped out from the third heaven. All the Lu clan's members had been moved into the mystic realm. The Yin family didn't tell them the truth, as they were afraid that they would be worried. Chapter 28:33. Found it. In the endless void, Lu Li wandered around that sea of stars for 13 days. Finally, he found a cave, which was inside a boulder. There were many gravel in the sea of stars, some with a radius of over 300 miles. There was nothing on them, as if they had been smashed by someone. After searching through hundreds of thousands of gravel, Lu Li finally found the cave. There was a mark near the cave, which read King of Middle Realm. Those in the third heaven were not called King of Middle Realm. They just believed that their own world was the third heaven. Therefore, the mark was probably left behind by the Swan ancestor. Lu Li asked Blood Fairy to go in and have a look to make sure that this was a portal. Luli put exquisite elephant into the heaven separation bead and went in alone. Whoosh! Inside the cave, Luli felt a suction force. He felt as if he had fallen into a tunnel of time and space. His body was spinning uncontrollably. He did not know how long he had been wandering around. He felt dizzy. Boom! Finally, Luli felt himself flying out. Then, he smashed into a boulder and bounced back down. He checked with psychic power at once. To his surprise, he was in a cave. The runes in the cave were glowing. The runes here were strong. Luli rested for a while and then walked out along the cave. He realized that he was underground. The runes isolated him from psychic power. He had to press on. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli went through a door of light. Then, he found himself in an underground river. His psychic power was no longer restricted. He used psychic power to check up. Soon, he became excited. He could tell that the space above him was a mountain and there were beasts nearby. He had entered a world, but it remained to be seen whether this was the third heaven or not. His body quickly followed a cave and rushed to the surface. His divine telekinesis extended infinitely as he searched the surroundings. Let's go. Luli flew up and flew into the distance. In an hour, he found a small city nearby. When he heard the familiar language, he felt he was about to burst into tears. The language of the third heaven was different from that of the endless ruins. Hearing the language of the third heaven again, Luli was excited as if he had heard the accent of his hometown. The separation bead glowed as Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long came out. They looked around and were excited to see Lu Li's expression. Xiang Ling Long asked, "Luli, we are back." Luli smiled. Pointing to the northeast, he said, "There's a small city over there. You can check it with psychic power." They spread out their psychic power. Both of them were delighted. Xiang Ling Long took Lu Li's hands and said, "We are back. We are finally back. I can finally see my father and mother." "All right, Ling Long." Lu Li patted exquisite elephant's head with a smile and said, "Don't get too excited. Let's make a deal first. We will keep everything that happened at the endless ruins a secret. Not one word will be said." Xiang Ling Long was stunned. Lu Ling understood after some thoughts. She nodded in agreement. Xiang Ling Long asked in confusion, "Why not?" "Because it will bring us endless trouble." Lu Li explained, "It will also bring panic to the third heaven. Another thing is, it will lead to a war between the endless ruins and the third heaven." Exquisite Elephant was a smart girl as well. She understood immediately. If the three of them talked about the endless ruins, there would be many people coming to ask them about it. Their freedom might be restricted by some Emperor Realm warriors in case they divulged the information about the endless ruins. Warriors of the third heaven had always thought that their world was the center of the third heaven, the most powerful one. There were many Emperor Realm warriors in the endless ruins, and there were many Saint Kings as well. It was inevitable that the third heaven would panic. If all the powerful warriors from such a powerful world came out, the third heaven would be suppressed and enslaved. What was more, what if a large number of powerful warriors went to the endless ruins this way? By then, it would really lead to a war between the two worlds. Therefore, Lu Li decided to keep it a secret. The chances of Dong Yang and Yang Yang coming back were slim anyway. As long as the three of them kept quiet, nobody would know about the existence of the endless ruins. Exquisite Elephant thought about it and said, "Then where have we been all these years?" "Simple." Lu Li said, "We were in the altar. We detonated the altar and were sucked into the endless void. We have been in the endless void all these years and only came back through a crack in space by chance." Lu Ling shook her head and said, "We should say that we found a small world in the endless void and cultivated there for some years. That small world is actually a land of treasures refined by a powerful warrior. We found a way back to the third heaven from that land of treasures. Now that the land of treasures is gone, it will be more believable and no one will look into it." "Okay." Exquisite Elephant nodded. She thought about it and said, "Lu Li, Sister Ling, let's be on the same page. Don't tell anyone. If we leak it to one person, it will lead to a chain reaction. Lu Li is right. This will bring us endless trouble. Let's go and find out where we are first." Luli took out his mask, and they covered their faces with a silk scarf. Otherwise, they would be recognized right away. They wanted to find out the situation first and then decide how to go. The three of them restrained their chi and energy. That being said, Exquisite Elephant and Lu Ling were still powerful. Warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation could tell that they were at the Lord Realm. On the other hand, Lu Li was weaker. He was only at the fifth tribulation. They walked around the small city and went into a private room in a tavern. They had a clear understanding of the situation. This was a small city at the south-central part of the godly Windland. Luli didn't know that the endless void was connected to this place. Luli called over a waiter and gave him a handful of divine stones. He had a clear understanding of the recent situation. The three of them were relieved to know that the third heaven was stable and the armies of the Asmodeans were suppressed in the two original battlefields. The waiter didn't know about the Lu family. The fact that the Yin family had taken Lu Ren Huang and the others over was not known. However, since they were at the south-central part of the godly Windland, Lu Li was hesitating. Should he go to the chilly winter land? Or should he go back to the second heaven at the Ziyang land? Lu Li and Lu Ling looked at each other and saw the glow in her eyes. Lu Li was a bit hesitant, but he made up his mind. He said to Xiang Ling Long, I want to go to the chilly winter land first and then go back to the second heaven. How about I send you back to the frigid sea first? Every continent had a portal of interspatial space built by the Samsara city. Given the relationship between Xiang Linglong and the Qi family, she could take the portal of interspatial space back to the frigid sea easily. Therefore, Luli was not worried about her safety. Chilly winter land? Xiang Linglong frowned and said with concern, Emperor Yang and Queen Phoenix are there. You will be in danger if you go there. How about you go back to the frigid sea with me and see the reincarnation emperor first? It's okay. Chapter 28:34. Xiang Linglong thought about it and agreed. Lu Li and the two of them were heroes of the third heaven. Reincarnation Emperor had erected the 10 of them into heroic and perfect images in order to rally all the warriors of the third heaven to fight against the abyss of demons. Now, the 10 of them were martyrs of the third heaven, and almost everyone knew about it. Many people even erected longevity tablets for them and enshrined their statues. The 10 of them had made great contributions to the third heaven. As long as they revealed their identities, nobody would dare to kill them, at least not openly. Otherwise, they would be condemned by the public and reviled by tens of thousands of people. Both Emperor Yang and Queen Phoenix were powerful, but there were more Emperor Realm warriors that were more powerful than them. Reincarnation Emperor valued Lu Li very much. Therefore, even if Lu Li stood in front of Emperor Yang and Queen Phoenix, they wouldn't dare to kill him. Xiang Linglong nodded after some thoughts and said, Okay, Lu Li's sister Ling, I will go back to the frigid sea first. You can go to the frigid sea when you are done. All the continents have teleportation portals anyway. It will be convenient for you to come and go. In order to fight against the abyss of demons, Reincarnation Emperor had teleportation portals built at all the continents and seas. However, average warriors could not use teleportation portals at will. Lu Li and the others didn't have this problem. They were heroes against the abyss of demons, and Lu Li was the patriarch of the Qi family. He could go anywhere he wanted. Let's go. After resting for 2 hours, Lu Li and the two of them set off for a big city at the godly Wind continent, the Fengyang city. This was a city controlled by an Emperor Realm family of the godly Wind continent, not the Queen Phoenix family. It should be safe. The three of them teleported on without any rest. They had enough divine stones with them. After more than a month, they arrived at the plaza of the Fengyang city. The city was crowded with many warriors. When Lu Li and the others arrived, they found the location of the teleportation portals easily with psychic power, because there were too many people there. Outside a huge castle, there were many people sitting in circles. Clearly, they were waiting to be teleported to the two battlefields. Now, there was no need to summon them. Countless warriors from all the continents and seas were going to the two battlefields. For them, they could not only fight against the abyss of demons, but also fight for the human race. More importantly, there were endless opportunities on the other side. As long as you can make a contribution, you will be rewarded handsomely. As long as you're talented, you'll be heavily nurtured. Moreover, he didn't need to join any family or faction. Many martial artists were actually quite talented, but they didn't like to join large clans or forces. Because once they joined, it was equivalent to losing their freedom, and they would have to serve the family for the rest of their lives. This was why this was a heaven-sent opportunity for many people. As long as they went to the two great battlefields, not only would they be able to kill enemies, but they would also be able to obtain resources. If their battle prowess was valiant, or if their growth was fast, they would quickly become famous. The rookie ranking. This list had only been released after the Demonic Abyss invasion. It had been constantly changing and adjusting. This list had also become the most authoritative list for the younger generation of the Third Heaven. In recent years, there had been many dazzling names on this list. Once one was on this list, his name would immediately shake the world and his reputation would rise. The list recorded 1,000 outstanding youths. As long as a young martial artist was on the list, they would become the target of recruitment by the major forces. All the big families and forces would offer very good conditions, and they would become the object of admiration for countless young men and women. Hidden sword cultivation for 800 years. Once unsheathed, the world wouldn't know. What was the point of living in this world? It was nothing more than fame, wealth, power, or beauties. As long as one could make great contributions on the two battlefields, not only would one become a hero, but one would also have fame, status, wealth, and beauties. Therefore, there was almost no need to summon people now. Every day, there would be people lining up at the portals of interspatial space, waiting to go to the two battlefields. That being said, opening the portals of interspatial space required rare materials. Therefore, the chief family could not teleport everyone over. There would be tests of strength. Now, even if one wanted to sacrifice himself for the Third Heaven, he might not even have the chance. Liu Li and the other two didn't rest after they arrived. After all, this was the godly Wind continent, where the Shan family had great power. The three of them walked toward the castle, ready to be teleported separately. None of them wanted to reveal their identities first. Ling Long was the most important young lady of the Xiang family, and she had a close relationship with the Qi family. They could teleport without revealing their identities. It was easier for Liu Li. He had the token of the honorable patriarch of the Qi family. The three of them walked to the gate of the castle. Since Ling Long and Lu Ling were at the sixth tribulation, it was hard for them to hide their qi and energy. Even though they were masked, their bodies were graceful and attractive. They attracted many people's attention. Lu Li, on the other hand, was left alone. Ling Long took out a token, held it up, and said to the warrior, "Take us to your chief steward." The token in Ling Long's hand was a special one issued by the chief family. With this token, she could enter the spatial city at will. She was a symbol of being a distinguished guest. The warrior was from the Qi family. Seeing the token and the powerful qi and energy of Ling Long and Lu Ling, he led the three in with respect. People were talking about it. They were wondering which force Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long were from. There were not many at the Third Heaven who could cultivate to this level. Inside, the three of them sat in a side chamber for a while. An old man hurried over. He was at the peak of the fifth tribulation, sent by the Qi family to take command here. When he came in, he was surprised to see Ling Long. Xiang Ling Long was not familiar with this man either. He should be from the external clan of the Qi family. If he were from the Qi family, Xiang Ling Long would have an impression of him. "I am Zhao Qi, the deputy chief of the external clan of the Qi family." The old man cupped his fists and said, "May I ask who these two young ladies and this young master are?" Xiang Ling Long didn't reveal her identity. She bowed and said, "Clan Chief Zhao, I want to go to the northern plains to fight, and I want to go to the chilly winter land. Can you arrange for us to be teleported there separately?" Clan Chief Zhao was hesitant. After all, the three of them were hiding their identities and their backgrounds were unknown. It would be fine if they were at the peak of the fifth tribulation. But Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong seemed to be at the sixth tribulation. What if something happened while they were teleported over? Seeing that clan chief Zhao was hesitating, Xiang Linglong said, I am good friend with Lady Ding Dong of the chief family. Still, clan chief Zhao didn't answer. He asked, do you have any proof? Our family patriarch has asked us to be more cautious. So, please show us your proof or tell us where you are from. Xiang Linglong looked at Lu Li helplessly. Lu Li took out a jade talisman and said, is this enough? The jade talisman Lu Li took out was the token of honorary patriarch of the chief family. Clan chief Zhao took a look and his pupils contracted. He stared at Lu Li and said, young master, is this yours? Of course. Chapter 2835. There were many patriarchs in the Qi family, but not many honorary patriarchs. One of the former honorary patriarchs had passed away. The only one left was Lu Li. Furthermore, Linglong said that she and Qi Dingdong were old friends. Most importantly, there were too few women who could cultivate to such a level. There were only a handful of them in the entire third heaven. Therefore, Hall leader Zhao was able to guess the identities of these three people. Since he had been guessed, Lu Li didn't need to hide anymore. He took off his mask and said, Clan leader Zhao, you are right. I am Lu Li. However, our identities are now a secret, so I hope you won't leak it. I will explain this matter to the Qi family patriarch later. Can you teleport us to the chilly winter continent and the northern plains continent now? Sure. Although Hall Master Zhao had countless doubts in his heart, he knew that there were some things that he couldn't ask about. He knew the rules very well, so he respectfully said, Elder Lu and the two of you, please wait for a moment. I'll go make the arrangements. Elder Lu and Miss Ling are going to the chilly winter continent, right? Is Miss Ling Long going to Northern Plains continent or back to Spatial City? You can return to Dimensional City? That would be for the best. Xiang Linglong was overjoyed. The Spatial City was very close to the Xiang family. She had thought that she could only go to the Northern Plains continent. Now that she could go to the Spatial City, there was nothing more to say. Grandmaster Zhao left to make arrangements. Xiang Linglong looked at Lu Li, wanting to say something but stopped on second thought. Lu Li replied with a smile, Don't worry, Linglong. Go home and have a good rest. When I am done here, I will go to the Xiang family to propose marriage. Xiang Linglong blushed. Next to her, Lu Ling teased. What are you two talking about in secret? Do you want me to excuse myself for a while? Hee hee. Lu Li forced a smile. Xiang Linglong blushed even more. The three of them stopped cultivating and chatted and rested in the hall. After some discussion, Lu Li and Lu Ling decided to go to the chilly winterland first, and then asked the Qi family to arrange for them to go to the Ziyang land. They would go back to the second heaven first, especially Lu Ling. It had been years since she last saw him. She missed him. Even though Lu Renhuang was not her biological father, she only had one father in her heart, and that was Lu Renhuang. After waiting for a long time, Pavilion Master Zhao finally returned and said that he had made the necessary arrangements. They were supposed to teleport a group of people today, but they were delayed by Grandmaster Zhao. Lu Li's business was more important than these people. Lu Li thought about it and sent a message back to the Qi family. Just say, I am back. I will go and see the Reincarnation Emperor after I deal with some matters. All right. Clan leader Zhao nodded. Then they went into a castle together. Lu Li and Lu Ling saw Xiang Linglong off first. There was a space gate in the castle. It was relatively small and should be used by distinguished guests. Lu Li, I am leaving. Xiang Linglong took Lu Li's hands and said, I will wait for you at the Xiang family. If you don't come, I will go to the chilly winter land to find you. No, Lu Li replied. I may go back to the second heaven after I go to the chilly winter land. Don't worry. I will go to the frigid sea as soon as I am done with my business. It will be 3 years at most. It's a deal. It's a deal. Lu Li nodded, and Xiang Linglong stepped into the portal. When the interspatial portal stopped glowing, Lu Li and Lu Ling went to another castle and stepped into another interspatial portal. This one was larger. It was used to teleport warriors to the chilly winterland and the demon abyss warriors, the chilly smoke city, a city at the rear of the battlefield. The chilly smoke city was an imperial city, controlled by the Emperor Zheng family, one of the three emperors of the chilly winterland. The chilly smoke city had become the base camp at the rear of the battlefield. All the powerful warriors that came as reinforcements were stationed here. Clan leader Zhao, remember, before he left, Luli said, "Only the chief family patriarch can know about me. Don't tell anyone else." "Don't worry, patriarch," clan leader Zhao said with sincerity. Luli was a patriarch of the Lu family, and clan leader Zhao wouldn't gossip about what Luli had done. "Right, patriarch," clan leader Zhao thought of something. He handed over a jade talisman and said, "This is an access token for the family. Take it. You won't be exposed when you get there. The chief family will give you access and cooperation." Luli thanked clan leader Zhao and stepped into the space gate with Lu Ling. They felt they were going through a spatial tunnel. How long had it been? After at least a few days, a rainbow space gate finally appeared in front of him. The two of them flew out in a flash and landed in a huge castle. There was a group of soldiers standing guard here. They were surprised to see only 2 warriors. Sixth Tribulation? A chief steward of the chief family took a look and found out Lu Ling's realm. The chief steward bowed to her with respect. Lu Ling didn't say anything. She just looked at Luli. "We are on the same side." Luli was wearing a mask, so the warriors didn't know him. He showed the access token to the chief steward with a smile and asked, "Which clan do you belong to? And this lady is?" "Secret mission." Luli smiled mysteriously and said, "We have to go now. There is something urgent." The chief steward didn't ask more questions. Lu Ling was so young, but she had reached the Sixth Tribulation. She must be a big shot. When a big shot came, it must be something important. It was not their place to meddle. Lu Li and Lu Ling sneaked out of the chief family's castle and into the city. They didn't wander around randomly. They went to the largest tavern and booked a room. Then, they called over a waiter to ask about the chilly winterland. As long as they had divine stones, it was easy to get some information. The chilly winterland had been quiet recently. Several powerful, great Emperor Realm warriors were here. The Abyss of Demons didn't launch any large-scale attacks. Therefore, it was relatively peaceful. The waiter talked incessantly about several young warriors who were in the limelight recently. The most outstanding warrior here was Zhu Fan, the descendant of Emperor Candleheaven. There was another young lady, the descendant of a reclusive great emperor. Her name was in Yuan. Dong Yang had disappeared. Zhu Fan became the second on the list, and this in Yuan became the third. The first was still John Doe, but he was at the Northern Plains. "Right," the waiter added. "Recently, there's a top talent at the chilly winterland. She is a young lady of the Yin family. Her name is Yin Xingxi. She has reached the Sixth Tribulation at a young age and ranks 16th on the list." Lu Li's eyes glowed. Had the blind Yin Xingxi come out from cultivation? She had reached the Sixth Tribulation directly. She must be very talented. But the waiter remembered something and reminded them, "Don't go to the Yin family for now. The Tsang family and the Yin family are at war. Their affiliated families are involved. It is a mess. You will be in danger if you go there." War. A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He and Lu Ling looked at each other. Both were confused. The Abyss of Demons was still invading, and the human race was not over yet. How could they kill each other? There were so many great Emperor Realm warriors here. Why didn't they do something? Lu Li asked, but the waiter did not know the specific reason. He only heard people talking about it recently. He didn't know the specifics. All he knew was that the war was fierce. Both sides had lost many people. It was said that the Yin family lost 3 patriarchs at the Sixth Tribulation. Let's go. Chapter 2836. The Yin family did start a war with the Tsang family. They didn't want to, but they were forced to. The Tsang family realized this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity after they got the support of the 2 families. The Tsang family and the Yin family had been enemies for generations. They were the most powerful in this area. Many families followed the lead of the 2 families. The two families had been having conflicts for tens of thousands of years. They often fought hard, but their strengths were about the same. Every time, they would stop after some casualties. This time, the Tsang family came prepared. They secretly joined hands with dozens of families. On the other hand, half of the families that were on good terms with the Tsang family lost their voice. Many clans had sensed an unusual aura and heard some rumors. After all, the chilly winter continent was a battlefield. The human race was facing a great enemy. There were so many emperors at the Lin Sun city, but they were still having a civil war. The Tsang family wouldn't have an internal conflict at this time unless they were out of their minds. If an emperor was displeased, the Tsang family could be wiped out with one word. The family patriarch of the Tsang family was not an idiot. Even if he was hot-headed, the elders in the family wouldn't allow him to act rashly. In addition, there had been a lot of friction between the two clans, but none of the emperors had spoken. Many people felt that something was amiss. A powerful emperor was going to wipe out the Yin family. It was obvious that this emperor was Sunlight Emperor. Sunlight Emperor had always been unhappy with the Yin family. Many people thought Emperor Candleheaven might have acquiesced. The commander of this battlefield was Emperor Candleheaven. The three reclusive emperors that joined later didn't compete with him for the commander's position. Maybe they didn't want to do it, so they just did their best in silence. As the commander-in-chief, he controlled a lot of resources and power. Countless top-notch scouts obeyed his orders. The entire chilly winter continent, including the Ziyang continent and the Wind continent, were under his surveillance. The civil war between the Yin family and the Tsang family was a big deal. Even the waiters in the restaurants at the Lin Sun city knew about it. How could Emperor Candleheaven not know? But Emperor Candleheaven didn't say anything. He didn't say anything, which meant he acquiesced. Some people thought it was because of Luli. Luli was close to the Yin family, and he was close to the Reincarnation Emperor. But Emperor Candleheaven and the Reincarnation Emperor were enemies. The friend of the enemy was also the enemy. Great Emperor Candle Sky was not the mastermind of this, but the Sunlight Emperor's family. Great Emperor Candle Sky might be happy to see this. If something went wrong, the Tsang family could be the scapegoat. Who dare to blame him? Of course, all of this was inference, and no one knew the truth of the matter. It was a fact that the Tsang clan was attacking the Yin clan. A few days ago, the Tsang clan had taken over one of the Yin clan's important cities and a place with precious resources. They had killed 3 of the Yin clan's 6 tribulation elders, while a few elders were injured and had fled in defeat. 5 of the Yin clan's younger generation prodigies had perished. One side was aggressive and had allied with more than 30 clans, while the other side was low in morale and the allied clans were thinking of retreating. The family war family had a war with them. Many of the young disciples of the Yin family had been relocated, and many of the old and weak women had also been relocated. The remaining people were prepared to fight to the death to protect the territory that their ancestors had fought for with their flesh and blood. Most of the disciples of the family had lost hope. They had put their hopes on Emperor Candleheaven and others. However, there had been no news from the Emperor's side, so they placed their hopes on the Reincarnation Emperor. The result: there was still no movement. Maybe Reincarnation Emperor didn't get the message, or he didn't want to create internal strife. Anyway, nothing happened on Reincarnation Emperor's side. The crippled Zen master had an idea. Reincarnation Emperor must have received the message. The problem was that he was far away. Unless Reincarnation Emperor came in person, he couldn't suppress the Tsang family. If he sent a patriarch of the chief family, the Tsang family would ignore it. There was another way, and that was for the Reincarnation Emperor to announce to the world and warn the Tsang clan not to act recklessly. The problem was, if that happened, the human race would definitely be in chaos internally, and the morale that they had gathered with great difficulty might dissipate. Maybe at the most crucial moment, the Reincarnation Emperor might come in person, but now was not the time. It was just a small conflict. Nothing serious had happened. As the commander of the North, how could Reincarnation Emperor come here easily? Broken Sword Mountain. On the highest peak, teams of martial artists were ready to go. There were at least 20,000 of them. They were all wearing bright armors and holding divine weapons. They stood on the plaza in an orderly manner. Their faces were full of cold, murderous intent and determination to fight to the death. They just received the news that the Tsang family had gathered 100,000 soldiers and countless martial experts to attack the main city of the Broken River territory controlled by the Yi family. The main city was controlled by the collateral family of the Yi family. There were 5 million collateral family members and citizens in the city. More than half of the people in the city had left. The remaining 1 million people were ready to die with the city. The patriarch of the Yi family had mobilized 20,000 martial experts and soldiers to fight against the Tsang family in the Broken River territory. They were gathering and preparing to go. Rustle, 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 a team of 50 martial experts walked out from a hall. At the front was the battle elder of the Yi family, Yin Fushun, and the first young master of the Yi family, Yin Tianfen and Yin Qingrui. To everyone's surprise, a masked lady walked out with Unrivaled beside her. Many people's eyes lit up when they saw the masked lady. They also became very respectful. They vaguely guessed that this was the pearl of the Yi family, Miss Yin Qingxi. It was said that she was the daughter of the most powerful ancestor of the Yi family, Emperor Zi. Apart from Yin Qingxi and Yin Fushun, who were at the Sixth Tribulation, there were 26 powerful elders, all of whom were at the Sixth Tribulation. 3 of them were patriarchs who had lived in seclusion for many years. Yin Fushun walked to the front of the 20,000 people. He raised his hand and said, "The Tsang family united dozens of families and gathered 100,000 soldiers to attack the Broken River territory. They want to kill all of our people. What should we do? Kill, kill, kill." The 20,000 people waved the weapons in their hands and roared in unison. Their voices shook the heaven and earth and resounded through the clouds. The murderous aura soared into the sky and enveloped the whole mountain. Yin Fushun shouted again, "The Yi family has been rooted in this land for hundreds of thousands of years. Every piece of land and every inch of territory here was won by our ancestors with blood and corpses. Now, someone wants to drive us out of this land and kill all of our people. What should we do? Blood for blood, a tooth for a tooth. Fight to the death." The 20,000 people roared again. Their eyes were all red. At this moment, no one could think of anything else. There was only one thought in their minds: to fight to the death with the enemy, to defend the dignity of the Yi family with their own blood and bodies, and to protect the territory of the Yi family. "Let's go." Yin Fushun waved his hand. Some elders took out battleships. Yin Fushun and the others took the lead and flew on them. The 20,000 people boarded the battleships in an orderly manner. Then, hundreds of battleships broke through the sky and disappeared into the eastern sky. Countless people's divine consciousness locked onto the masked lady on the battleship at the front. Their morale was boosted. Chapter 28:37. This time, the Yin family sent Yin Qingxi, Yin Tianfan, and Yin Rulan to fight. This showed their determination. The most elite disciples of the younger generation were fighting. This meant that the Yin family had bet on the future of the Yin family. This meant that the Yin family had no other choice but to fight to the death. They would either win or be destroyed. 20,000 warriors. Most of them were 4th Tribulation warriors. There were also many 5th Tribulation warriors. This was the core strength of the Yin family. Although many of them didn't have the surname Yin, they had been relying on the Yin family for so many years. They had already integrated with the Yin family. They were bound together for good or bad. The morale of the Yin family had been low before. But this time, after Yin Qingxi, Yin Tianfan, and the others joined the battle, their morale reached its peak. They also understood that if they didn't win this battle, the Yin family would be finished, and so would they. The battleships flew forward. Each battleship was hundreds of meters long. They looked like small mountains floating in the sky. Hundreds of battleships covered the sky and the earth. They passed by many small cities along the way. The people in the cities were excited at the sight. They wanted to follow the Yin family's army to fight a bloody battle and drive away all the invaders. The battleships were the best. Not only were they strong in defense, but they were also very fast. They arrived at the Broken River territory in only 20 days. Many soldiers were gathered here. More than 200,000 soldiers were mobilized from all directions. The Een family had prepared for this battle for a long time. This time, the Een family didn't want to retreat. The Tsang family didn't attack in advance. In fact, it didn't matter if they attacked one day earlier or one day later. If they didn't destroy the Een family's strength and experts, what was the point of occupying most of the Een family's cities and territories? The Een family could take it back at any time. Their experts could even attack the Tsang family's hinterland. The allied army of the Tsang family and dozens of families gathered in a small city 1,000,000 miles east of the Broken River City. They were waiting for the Een family's experts and army to come, and then they would destroy them. As the name suggested, there was a broken river on this side of Broken River City. Moreover, this broken river was very large, more than 5 kilometers wide. This river suddenly disappeared 100 kilometers north of Broken River City. The river water poured into the ground and went into the underground river. From the outside, it looked like the river was suddenly cut off. That was how the Broken River City and the Broken River Territory got their name. More than 100 warships arrived at Broken River City. The millions of soldiers and citizens in the city all cheered loudly, their fighting spirits soaring. The soldiers and warriors flew down and stationed themselves in the barracks outside the city. The elders of the Een clan started to get busy. First, they had to organize the troops. Second, they had to set up defensive runes. Third, they had to gather information. Fourth, they had to mobilize logistics. In short, countless people were busy preparing for the great battle that was about to begin. An army battle was not a battle between a few martial artists. Neither clan had an emperor-ranked martial artist, so there was no situation where a single person could wipe out an entire army. Even if you're a quasi-emperor, a few late-stage Six Tribulation experts can easily kill you. Not to mention the fact that the army had collective battle formations that could increase the combat strength of the entire army and complement each other. This time, the Een family had mobilized more than half of their experts. There were more than 100,000 strong troops and more than 1,000,000 ordinary troops and commoners. Of course, most of them were commoners who would not participate in the battle. On the surface, the Tsang family only had more than 100,000 troops and experts. However, this did not include the hundreds of thousands of ordinary soldiers that they had mobilized earlier. In addition, the Tsang family definitely had a backup plan, but no one knew when they would launch it. The battle started half a month later. Battleships broke through the horizon in the east. They were so densely packed that they looked like locusts. There was no end to them. There were at least a few thousand large and small warships. The total number of soldiers that the Tsang family mobilized this time was about 400,000 to 500,000. They actually mobilized all of their troops. Een Fushun stood on the city wall of Broken River City. Een Qingxi, Een Ruolin, and the others were all wearing armor and lined up in a row. Everyone looked surprised. Under normal circumstances, in such a great battle, both sides would usually mobilize some of their troops to fight first. Then, depending on the situation, they would mobilize their troops to attack or defend from different directions. However, this time, the Tsang family sent all of their troops to attack without any order. It was as if they were a pack of wolves while the other side was a flock of sheep. Did they want to directly crush the Een clan soldiers and experts? The enemies were already pressing on, and Een Fushun didn't have much time to think. He waved his hand and said, "Follow the second plan. Attack." More than 26 tribulation experts, apart from the 3 patriarchs and Een Fushun, were divided into 3 teams and went to the 3 military camps outside. Then, they each led more than 100,000 soldiers and charged at the Tsang family's army like 3 arrowheads. Kill! At this moment, a deafening battle cry suddenly sounded from the west of Broken River City. Een Fushun and the others swept over with their divine senses, and their faces darkened. Chapter 2838. Kill, kill. not only from the west, but also from the north and south. Following that, battleships tore through the sky from the north and south. At a glance, there were at least 100,000 people. The Een family's army was besieged on all sides and surrounded. This was the Broken River territory, which had been occupied by the Een clan for hundreds of thousands of years. Although some cities were occupied by the Tsang clan, the Een clan's influence was everywhere in this territory. Now, hundreds of thousands of troops suddenly appeared, but the higher-ups of the Een family did not receive any news. There were only two explanations. One was that the Tsang clan had used a great ability to deceive everyone. The other was that there was something wrong with the Een clan's higher-ups. At least, the intelligence hall master had betrayed them. Een Fushun's gaze swept the area a few times, but he didn't notice the higher-ups of the information hall. His heart sank. Looks like it's very likely that the hall master of the information hall has defected. Perhaps Song clan and the two forces behind Song clan had promised him a great deal. In addition, Wu clan and Shan clan might have also sent out their supreme experts and great divine arts to help him conceal the traces of this army of a few 100,000. No matter what, they had lost this battle. Een Fushun scanned the area with his spiritual force and realized that many old fellows from the Tsang clan had been mobilized. There were also many clan heads from the large clans. The number of experts they were dealing with was obviously twice the number of experts. In addition, the number of soldiers had increased, and they were surrounded from all directions. The Een family's morale would inevitably drop. Pass down my order, break out of the encirclement towards the west, and retreat. Een Fushun only pondered for a moment before giving the order. If they broke through and retreated now, the Een family would definitely suffer heavy losses. However, if they didn't retreat, they would all be annihilated. There was still hope if they retreated, but if they stayed and all died here, then the Een family would be completely finished. Een Qingxi, Een Tianfan, and the others were all covered in blood, but most of it was the blood of their enemies. They had treasures all over their bodies and were protected by the experts of their families, so they were fine. Only some of them were injured. When they saw this scene, their expressions became very ugly. Their faces were filled with unwillingness. They fought bravely, bathed in blood, and killed countless enemies. Who would have thought that they would still lose this battle? Even if they died here, it wouldn't change the overall situation. They were all heavenly geniuses, outstanding talents of the younger generation. However, in the face of such a large-scale war, their individual strength still seemed so insignificant. Retreat. Military orders had to be obeyed. Een Fushun was the supreme commander this time, so everyone had to listen to his orders. Everyone in the army did not hesitate. They wanted to quickly escape from the battlefield and break out of the encirclement to the west. However, the three armies pierced through like arrows. It was easy to enter, but difficult to get out. In addition, the Tsang clan soldiers also came over with all their might, wanting to keep the Een clan's troops and experts in Broken River City. The battle quickly became even more tragic. Of course, it was the Een clan who suffered more. Their army was slaughtered. After fighting for half a day, only about 100,000 people managed to escape. Many of the rest were killed, and even more were trapped in a bitter battle and unable to escape. Een Qingxi and the others rushed out of the encirclement. They looked back and saw countless clansmen and soldiers of the Een family still fighting hard in the encirclement. Their faces were full of grief and indignation. Many people's eyes were red, and they wished they could turn around and kill their way back so that they could die together with those people. Go! Een Fushun roared angrily and led the army to the west. But after flying for several 100,000 kilometers, a loud laughter rang out. Een Fushun, where do you think you're going? Swish, swish, swish. From the west came the sound of something breaking. Thousands of people flew into the sky. When Een Fushun saw the old man at the front, his face darkened. He gritted his teeth and said, "Song Sui." The Tsang clan leader came in person. He brought thousands of people with him, but all of them were at the fifth tribulation realm. There were many lords among them. It seemed that the Tsang clan had turned out in full force and wanted to kill all of them here. Even Song Sui, is on the move. Why didn't the clan leader and sixth patriarch come? Fu Shun and the other experts were surprised. To them, sixth patriarch was a man who took every possibility into account. Back then, he dominated the Silver Flame Sea region alone and caused a disturbance in the entire Wu clan. Hee, are you waiting for Tian Can to come and save you? Song Sui brought his men and flew over quickly with a sinister smile on his face. He said something that shattered everyone's last hope. I reckon that after today, your Broken Sword Mountain will become Broken Sword Valley. After today, your family will be completely annihilated. Swish, swish, countless people's expressions changed. Qingxi and the others' faces turned even paler. Song Sui wouldn't lie. Did it mean that Broken Sword Mountain would also be attacked? Almost all the experts of the Song clan were here. Almost all the experts of the Song clan's alliance were here too. In that case, who else would be attacking Broken Sword Mountain? An answer was on the verge of appearing. The Wu clan and the Shan clan. They thought that the two clans would only act behind the scenes. They didn't expect that they would send experts to attack personally. Even if they didn't send their own experts, they must have bribed them with money. Otherwise, how could the Song clan have experts to attack Broken Sword Mountain? The chilly winter continent didn't lack powerhouses now. Countless old demons were gathered on the battlefield. What were these old demons doing here? Most of them were here for benefits. As long as the Wu clan and the Shan clan offer enough benefits, it would be easy to hire dozens of old demons. Great Emperor Candle Sky didn't express his stance. This meant that he had acquiesced to the Wu clan and the Shan clan destroying the Yin clan. In that case, Great Emperor Candle Sky wouldn't say anything if the two clans hired some old demons. Those old demons wouldn't have any scruples either. The more they thought about it, the more panicked they became. If the crippled Zen Master and the Yin clan leader died and Broken Sword Mountain was conquered, the Yin clan would be finished. Even the Reincarnation Emperor couldn't save the Yin clan. Fight to the death. Fu Shun shouted and drew out his saber. It was meaningless to think too much in this situation. They would all die here if they couldn't break out. What was the point of thinking? Kill! Tianfen, Shenrui, and the rest roared and charged towards Song Sui. They were like moths flying towards him without hesitation. Many people had made up their minds. They didn't want to break out of the encirclement. They would die here today and drag as many people as possible with them. Buzz! At this moment, the two battlefields on both sides shone. Then, a small golden door appeared in the space. Many people were surprised and stopped. Flying through the air, many people of the Yin family came to their senses. This was the skill of the crippled Zen Master. Was the crippled Zen Master here? Since the crippled Zen Master could come, did it mean that the war at Broken Sword Mountain had subsided? Whoosh! A man dashed out from a golden door. He was wearing a cyan robe and had white hair. He was graceful, but he seemed to be young. Everyone was confused when they saw the man's face. It was not the crippled Zen Master. His face was unfamiliar. Who was he? Why did he know the skill of flying through the air? What was he doing here? Phew. After the man rushed out, he glanced around. When he found that Qingxi, Unrivaled, and Tianfan were still alive, he heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He put on a smile and ignored Song Sui's team. Staring at Qingxi and Fu Shun, he said, Good. You are here in time. Qingxi trembled. Even though Lu Li was wearing a mask, he didn't change his voice. Qingxi was familiar with the voice. Unrivaled, Tianfen, and the others were surprised as well. Unrivaled was impatient. She blurted out, Lu Li, is that you? Buzzing. Chapter 28:39. The last time Lu Li saw Qingxi, she was in closed-door cultivation. They didn't meet. From the 9 universes, to the divinity, to the second heaven, to the third heaven, and then to the endless ruins, Lu Li had been away for many years. Qingxi saw Lu Li's face. She had seen his portrait many times. She remembered what happened in the 9 universes and in the purgatory of primordial chaos. She put on a smile. Inchingxi's eyes had been cured. Her eyes were like water, full of spirit. A moment later, Inchingxi realized what was going on. What was going on? They were about to die. Wasn't Lu Li courting death by coming here? She didn't even have time to think about how Lu Li came back. Where did he come from? She shouted, Lu Li, go, go. Lu Li was here to save Inchingxi and the others. How could he leave? On his way here, he learned that Inchingxi and the others were here, so he teleported over at once. However, many cities' teleportation formations were closed. She had no choice but to fly across the void. Luckily, she was lucky. After several teleportations, she arrived at the center of the battlefield. He glanced over and used psychic power to the extreme. After he had a clear understanding of the situation, he grinned and said, Qingxi, don't worry. I will take care of this. You just stay together and form a defense formation. You? A glint of coldness rose in Song Sui's eyes. Lu Li's arrival surprised the Song family. After all, Lu Li had disappeared for many years. It was said that he had died a heroic death. He was given the title of General of Valor, a hero of the third heaven. Song Sui was worried and worried. But on hearing Lu Li's words, he was filled with murderous intent. Things had come to this. He couldn't care less about the title of General of Valor. At worst, he could just knock Lu Li out, but not kill him. Lu Li had gone too far. So what if he killed Lu Li? Song Sui could say that Lu Li was an imposter. After all, Lu Li was a martyr. Song Sui shouted, piss off. This has nothing to do with you. Don't court death. Do it. Song Sui flew over with a group of warriors. Yin Fu Shun and the others were about to join them. However, Lu Li waved his hand and said, I told you to form a formation and protect yourselves. Leave these people to me. Buzz. With that said, Dragon Chi burst out from Lu Li's body. His robe was torn apart, and silver scales appeared on his skin. Dragon wings and a dragon tail grew from his back. Dragon horns grew from his head, and his hands turned into dragon claws. He unleashed his divine dragon transformation, and his aura became extremely terrifying and oppressive, as if he were a prehistoric beast. Song Sui was a quasi-emperor, and there were 2 other quasi-emperors by his side. There were more than 20 feudal lords, so he could not be careless. Otherwise, he would fail miserably. Now that Song Sui knew he was Lu Li and he still wanted to fight, it meant that Song Sui would not hold back. Lu Li must try his best to win this fight. He activated the dragon wrestling skill and the heavenly armor skill at the same time. Origin power circulated in his body, and his aura rose again. Just now, Lu Li was only at the 5th tribulation. Now, after the transformation, he was even more powerful than Song Sui. It was horrifying. Both sides were startled once again. Many people blinked their eyes, and their expressions changed several times. Some people cried out in alarm, and the entire audience was in an uproar. Reverse dragon transformation? He is from the Dragon Rebel clan? But it is not the same as the reverse dragon transformation. Yes, he is only at the 5th tribulation. Even if he were to use the reverse dragon transformation, his abilities would be increased by 10 times at best. How come he is so strong? This man has always been strange. Be careful. Both sides were discussing. Lu Li took out the heaven separation bead and let Lu Ling out in case she would be shaken out later. He said to Lu Ling, Sis, go to the Yin family and help. Let me handle the warriors here. Lu Ling nodded. She didn't go with Lu Li. She knew very well about Lu Li's abilities. When he used his origin energy, it would not be difficult for him to defeat a quasi-emperor. In the endless desert, Lu Li killed a powerful one. You are the family patriarch of the Song family? Lu Li stared at Song Sui. He seemed to be the leader of the group. Since there were so many powerful warriors of the Song family, he must be the family patriarch. I am Song Sui, the family patriarch of the Song family. Song Sui shouted coldly. I don't care who you are. This is a fight between the Song family and the Yin family. Please step aside, or you will face the consequences. My name is Lu Li. Lu Li smiled and said, I have another identity. I am an honorary patriarch of the Yin family. If you want to destroy the Yin family, you will be making an enemy out of me. Since you are the family patriarch, then you can stay here today. Luli spread his dragon wings and whooshed over. He sped up and soon he was close to Song Sui. Song Sui didn't care. He waved the wand in his hand. The ground trembled. Then earth elements surged out. Many yellow earth dragons emerged from the ground. The energy of those earthen dragons was horrifying. They flew up from underground and swarmed toward Lu Li, enveloping him at once. Elder Lu, be careful. This earth dragon contains a very strong energy and a very strong gravity. In Fushun once suffered at Song Sui's hands. The earth dragons seemed to be simple, but there was something hidden in them. After the earth dragons exploded, there would be strange energy around Lu Li, which would make him heavy and slow down. In that case, he would become a sitting duck. Lu Li could not afford to be careless. After all, Song Sui was a family patriarch of the Song family. It was difficult for a warrior to become a family patriarch, let alone a family patriarch of a super family. Therefore, Lu Li released his armor of origin energy at once. A layer of white glare came out around him and enveloped him. At the same time, he moved quickly towards Song Sui. Boom, boom, boom. One earth dragon after another exploded. The space around Lu Li was torn apart. Shockwaves swept across, stirring up dust and enveloping Lu Li. Everyone present focused their psychic power on Lu Li. However, he was not harmed by such a horrifying explosion. The white halo around Lu Li seemed to have shielded him from all the shockwaves. Buzzing. At the moment, Lu Li was only 2 miles away from Song Sui. He released his Dharma form. A shadow of a huge dragon rose up behind him. On the back of the silver dragon stood a warrior with a halberd. The silver dragon whooshed toward Song Sui at a horrifying speed. What is that? Can it be Dharma form? Emperor's might. This is Emperor's might, the power of an emperor. Lu Li is at the Emperor realm. He is at the Emperor realm? Everyone was boiling over. At this moment, nobody even cared about Song Sui, who was being attacked by the Dharma form. Everyone was stunned by this unacceptable fact. Before Lu Li went missing, he was only at the peak of the 4th tribulation. How come he had reached the Emperor realm in such a short time? The Emperor realm. That was a hurdle that many could not cross. Song Sui and the other warriors, including several senior warriors of the Yi family, have been stuck at the Emperor realm for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years. They could never make the breakthrough. Boom! Song Sui was stunned as well. The Dharma form was so fast that Song Sui didn't even have time to react before he was smashed away. At the last moment, Song Sui used a strong defensive skill to save his life. That being said, many parts of his body were blown up beyond recognition. Whoosh! Lu Li didn't stop after he released the Dharma form. He dashed over in a blur, grabbed Song Sui's neck, and lifted him up. Looking at Song Sui without any emotion, Lu Li said, "The abyss of demons has invaded. The human race hasn't survived yet. How can you kill your own kind? Since you have made a mistake, you must face the consequences. Death." Boom. Chapter 2840. The head of the Tsang clan, a quasi-emperor, was almost instantly killed. The entire place suddenly became silent. There was a dead silence, and no one spoke. Many people from the Tsang clan were in disbelief as they watched Song Sui's head explode. Although their patriarch was not the strongest in the clan, he was the symbol of invincibility in the eyes of many people. But now he was dead, and he died so casually, so simply. Those from the Yin family were stunned as well. Many people felt Lu Li had become stronger after he transformed. He was even more powerful than the patriarchs of the Song family. Little did he expect that Lu Li was so powerful that he almost killed the family patriarch of the Song family in one move. How powerful! Yin Qingxi's eyes lit up. She had always thought of herself as a genius. Although Lu Li was not bad, he was born in the mortal world and his genes were too weak. She was the daughter of Emperor Zi with powerful genes. How could Lu Li compete with her? But now, she found out that she was wrong, ridiculously wrong. Not only was Lu Li more talented than her, he was much more. She had just reached the Lord realm, while Lu Li had reached the Emperor realm. The gap between them was so wide that she could only look up to him. Xiao. Everyone was stunned except for Lu Li. He dashed toward the powerful warriors of the Song family. A huge dragon came out from his back and whooshed toward its Song family quasi-emperor. At the same time, a saber appeared in Lu Li's hand. The ray of sword light, infused with origin energy, swept across and hit dozens of people. Boom! At the same time, that boundary emperor was also hit by the Dharma idol. However, this boundary emperor was prepared and took out a treasure to block it. His body was only blasted away and he was seriously injured, but it was not as serious as Tsang Sui. Boom, 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 boom. On the other side, Lu Li's ray of sword light was more effective. Dozens of people were smashed away at once, and more than a dozen were cut in half. Kill him. Many people were enraged. They began to attack Lu Li from all sides. At least 100 people were targeting Lu Li. Soon, Lu Li was enveloped by all kinds of lights. That being said, Lu Li had armor made of origin energy. His defense was amazing and he was fast. When he used the trace of Tao, his senses were extraordinary. He could dodge powerful attacks in advance and take the attacks from average warriors head-on. Boom, 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 boom. Everywhere Lu Li went, space would be torn apart and there would be violent explosions. However, Lu Li would soon rush out from the center of the explosion. Streaks of white saber light whizzed out. He released his origin energy blade and released it for free. Massacre. Yin family warriors kept their eyes on Lu Li. It was more like a one-sided massacre. Soon, Lu Li killed the other emperor, quasi-emperor, and 3 warriors of the Sixth Tribulation. Kill. Yin Fushun looked at the situation. How could he miss such a good opportunity? With a loud roar, he led a group of experts and charged over. Lu Li could win the battle by himself. They came with powerful warriors to reap the fruits of victory, to kill as many powerful warriors of the Song family as possible. Because Lu Li had the origin energy armor, the dragon wrestling, and the heaven armor, his defense was so strong that he was no different from an average Overlord Realm warrior. Thus, he was like a nobody in the Song clan's army. Countless people attacked him, but they couldn't break through his defense at all. On the other hand, he could casually use his origin energy blade to sweep through a large area. Boom, boom, boom. Yin Fushun and the others rushed over. There were only a dozen of them, and all of them were at the Sixth Tribulation. Apart from Yin Xingxi and Lu Ling who were holding the line, the other 6 had come. The 6 Tribulation warriors of the Yi family were distracted by Lu Li. Yin Fushun and the others pierced into the Song clan's army like a sharp knife, tearing a hole in the army. Retreat. A Song family progenitor warrior was reluctant to see so many of his family members dying. He shouted in annoyance and took the lead to retreat. They were one step away from killing Yin Fushun and the others. Those are the backbone of the Yi family. If they could kill them, the Yi family would be doomed even if the Broken Sword Mountain did not succeed. But Lu Li came out of nowhere and turned the tide on his own. He killed their family patriarch and suppressed thousands of powerful warriors. If the fight went on, the thousands would all perish. Those thousands were the backbone of the Song family. If they all died, the Song family would suffer a great loss. Woo, 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 the deep and muffled sound of the bugle was heard. The people of the Song family fled in all directions. Yin Xingxi waved her hand, and all the soldiers on her side were mobilized, chasing after them in all directions. However, Yin Xingxi only ordered them to retreat after chasing them for 1,000,000 miles. Boom! Lu Li killed another warrior of the Song family at the later stage of the Sixth Tribulation and came back. He wanted to beat the Song family warriors when they were down, but he could not maintain the dragon transformation for too long. When the situation was stabilized, he could settle the score later. Whoosh! Yin Xingxi flew over and came to Lu Li's side. She pointed to the east anxiously and said, Lu Li, there are hundreds of thousands of warriors of the Song family at the Broken River City. Many of our warriors and civilians haven't made it out yet. Okay, I will go first. You can come later. Lu Li saw the pleading look in Yin Xingxi's eyes. He He spread his wings and dashed over like a sharp sword. He was not worried that Lu Ling was here. For one thing, she was not weak. For another, she was from the Dragon Rebel race, the favorite of the Dragon Rebel race. The Tsang family would not have the courage to lay a finger on her. They were not far away from the Broken River City. Lu Li was so fast that he arrived in the time for dozens of breaths. The battle was still going on. The warriors of the Tsang family were surrounded in several small circles. There were more than 200,000 warriors and hundreds of thousands of civilians in the city. Those people were afraid to move. They had to hide in their homes, trembling. What? Lu Li's glaring qi and energy alarmed many. Many people turned to him. At first, they thought he was a beast or a human dragon. There were too many of them, and they blotted out the sky and covered the earth. If they relied on ordinary methods, they would probably have to kill for several days and nights. Lu Li chose the simplest way. He took out the bugle and dashed into the Tsang family's army. Woo, 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 Lu Li's soul attacks were much stronger than before. When he used the bugle, regular lords without powerful enchanted souls would not be able to stand it. The warriors rolled on the ground and then fell to the ground. Even though Lu Li tried his best to avoid the warriors of the Yin family, the bugle was too powerful. Many were still affected. Whoosh! While flying away, Lu Li blew the bugle. Everywhere he went, warriors around him would fall to the ground. Many people covered their heads and yelled in pain. They looked at Lu Li in terror, as if he was the most horrifying demon in the world. In the time for one incense stick to burn, more than half of the hundreds of thousands of warriors of the Tsang family had fallen to the ground. The remaining ones began to flee. While flying away, they looked at Lu Li in terror, trembling. Chapter 28:41. By the time Yin Qingxi gathered her warriors over, Lu Li's side was almost done. Yin Qingxi and the others were dumbfounded to see so many warriors rolling on the ground and screaming in pain. Many people had already died here, and with so many people rolling on the ground, it looked like hell at first glance. Charge! Yin Fushun yelled. How could he miss such a good chance? He led his warriors over. Soon, the ground was covered with dead bodies. Lu Li felt sorry for him and said, Patriarch Yin, life is merciful. The human race is not over yet. I don't think it is a good idea to kill the captives. How about we capture all of them and ask the Yin family to ransom them, or send them to the battlefield to fight against the abyssal demon warriors? Yin Fushun frowned. He had climbed out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood to become the hall master of warfare. He had always been cruel and merciless. This was a good chance for him. If he could kill all of the Tsang family warriors, the Tsang family would suffer a great loss. Why would he spare any captives? But Lu Li was not an average person. If it weren't for Lu Li, they would all be doomed, and so would the Yin family. In the future, the entire Yin family would have to rely on Lu Li. Therefore, Yin Fushun had to take Lu Li's words seriously. Yin Fushun thought about it and said, Patriarch Lu, the Tsang family has stirred up trouble for no reason. We have suffered a great loss. If we can't inflict a heavy blow on the Tsang family, how can we face the death of our people? Of course, if Patriarch Lu wants us to stop, I will listen to you. Lu Li curled his lips. Yin Fushun was buying time. With every breath, tens of thousands of Tsang family warriors would be killed. Lu Li knew that the Yin family warriors were angry. They would not feel comfortable if they stopped now. Therefore, Lu Li thought about it. After the time for 10 breaths, more than 100,000 warriors of the Tsang family had been killed. Lu Li said, Okay, take the rest. We will see what to do with them later. We will not let them go for nothing. Okay. When Yin Fushun saw that he had killed quite a number of Tsang clan's people, he vented quite a bit of his anger. He waved his hand and shouted, Elder Lu has given the order to stop slaughtering the prisoners of war. Capture all of them. Yin Fushun was the commander-in-chief. Nobody dared to disobey him. What was more, he said that it was Lu Li's order. Who dared to disobey? To them, Lu Li was like a god, a mythical figure. Yin Qingxi flew over and said with worry, Lu Li, something might have happened at the Broken Sword Mountain. Song Sui said, "There are powerful warriors and armies attacking the Broken Sword Mountain. Do you think? All right, wait for me." Luli took out the heaven separation bead, went in, and deactivated the dragon transformation. He put on a new robe and walked out. He thought about it and said, "Qing Si, come with me to the Broken Sword Mountain. The rest of you stay here to clean up the battlefield and stabilize the situation." Broken Sword Mountain was in the hinterland of the Yin family, so there definitely wouldn't be a large army attacking there. It was probably a group of mysterious experts. There shouldn't be many of them, and there shouldn't be any Emperor-level experts. If so, then there was no need to bring anyone back. Luli could go back by himself. It would be more convenient for him to take Yin Qingxi with him. Luli said something to Yin Fushun. Then, he put Yin Qingxi and Lu Ling into the heaven separation bead and flew away. Luli had not fought for a long time. He was still a bit weak, but he could stand it and it wouldn't affect him too much. He continuously flew across the void, almost never stopping on the way. This place was not very far from Broken Sword Mountain, so it only took him half a day to arrive near Broken Sword Mountain. "Qingxi, show me the way." He teleported Yin Qingxi out, grabbed her shoulder with one hand, and flew away with her. Yin Qingxi felt a strong hand on her shoulder. She was surrounded by Lu Li's masculine energy. She blushed. She knew very well that this was not the time to indulge in flights of fancy. She used psychic power to check the surroundings. When Lu Li flew past a small city, she pointed to the northwest and said, "Fly this way. We will be there in an hour at most." Okay, there was only an hour to go. Lu Li didn't even bother to teleport. Many cities might have closed-down teleportation formations. He might as well fly over. He mobilized his source energy and sped up to the extreme. An hour later, he could already see mountains rising into the sky. Boom, 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 boom. From the Broken Sword Mountain came some noises of explosion. The sky was being torn apart and then recovered. Yin Qingxi's face turned pale. She tried her best to check with psychic power. When she saw a man, she yelled, "Grandpa 6 is under attack." Luli had already sensed it with psychic power. He saw the crippled Zen master being attacked by more than a dozen warriors. He was covered in blood, and his injuries were serious. Many mountains of the Broken Sword Mountain had turned into ruins. Bodies were everywhere. Not only the crippled Zen master, but more than a dozen other places were also fighting. Yin family patriarch and more than a dozen patriarchs were under attack as well. "Luckily, I made it in time." Luli nodded. Almost all the warriors were at the Sixth Tribulation, and there were 5 or 6 quasi-emperors. The crippled Zen master was strong, but he was only at the quasi-emperor realm. It was a miracle that he could last this long. "Qingxi, stay here and watch. Take care of yourselves." Luli let Yin Qingxi and Lu Ling out and then used the dragon transformation at once. His body was covered with silver dragon scales. His spirit sword. He had transformed into a human-shaped beast. "Don't panic, Progenitor 6. Luli is here." Luli shouted and dashed over in a blur. The more than a dozen powerful warriors attacking the crippled Zen master were surprised to see a monster coming at them. Then 3 of them rushed out, trying to stop Luli. "Piss off." Luli used Dragon Roar. His voice shook heaven and earth. He transformed his source energy into blades. 3 streaks of white light whooshed toward the 3 warriors. The speed of the white light was so fast that the 3 only had enough time to use a defensive skill or would take out some treasures to defend themselves. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 warriors were torn apart by the white light and turned into a mist of blood. They were only at the initial stage and the middle stage of the Sixth Tribulation. How could they survive the attack of source energy? Origin energy? Emperor realm? Luli? Which Luli? Is there an Emperor realm warrior named Luli? Many people had the same question. The crippled Zen master, on the other hand, recognized Lu Li's voice. He was overjoyed. He used a powerful skill to knock away a warrior at the later stage of the Sixth Tribulation. Buzzing, Lu Li dashed to a quasi-emperor. Without wasting any time, he released his Dharma form. That quasi-emperor was taken aback when he saw the Dharma form. His eyes were filled with fear. Dharma form was a skill unique to Emperor Realm warriors. This quasi-emperor had been at the quasi-emperor realm for many years, and he believed he was powerful. However, compared to an Emperor Realm warrior, he was still a puny ant. Run. Nobody had any hesitation. None of them had the will to fight against an Emperor Realm warrior. Not to mention anything else, an armor formed by Emperor Realm warriors using source energy was not something they could break easily. They could not kill an Emperor Realm warrior, but one could crush them one by one. What was the point of fighting then? Chapter 2842. A grand battle that had been planned for a long time came to an end soon after Luli showed up. Though many warriors and powerful warriors of the Yin family died, it was a great victory. Song Sui, the family patriarch of the Tsang family, and 5 other quasi-emperors were killed. More than a dozen warriors of the Sixth Tribulation were killed by Luli. Hundreds of thousands of warriors were killed, and 300,000 were captured. The Tsang family had suffered a great loss. The families allied with the Tsang family suffered great losses as well. They could no longer challenge the Yin family. Even though it was only a fight between 2 families, this was a special time, so people were paying attention to it. The forces outside might not know, but at least those at the chilly winterland were paying attention. There were many scouts lurking here. The news of the battle spread throughout the chilly, austere continent, and then to the third heaven. When Luli learned that the Lu family had moved to the third heaven, the territory of the Yin family, he flew into a rage. Not only did the Tsang family want to destroy the Yin family, but his family as well. Did the Wu family and the Shan family behind the Tsang family just want to destroy the Yin family? Were they not trying to vent their anger by killing his family and friends? Luli had been thinking about the catastrophe at the third heaven. He asked Yin Fushun and the others not to kill the captives in case the abyss of demons would become a laughingstock. When he learned that Lu Runhuang was at the territory of the Yin family, he sent out a notice through the Yin family. The notice was sent out in his own name. It was a lengthy and eloquent article, full of emotions. His words revealed his anger. The general meaning of the article was questioning why the Tsang family would kill their own when the human race was facing a catastrophe and could be destroyed at any time. For the third heaven, Luli risked his life to blow up the altar. Now, someone was trying to murder his family at the Broken Sword Mountain? Was there any justice in the world? The announcement that Luli asked the Yin family to send out soon spread across the third heaven along with the fight. The third heaven was in an uproar. Luli didn't die. He made it back. The family of General Yong Yi, one of the acknowledged heroes of the human race, was almost wiped out. It was okay for some families to kill each other in front of a formidable enemy. But General Yong Yi's family? This was insane. The entire third heaven was filled with curses and crusades against the Tsang family. Many families also sent out notices to support Luli. He questioned the 2 supreme commanders of the human race at the same time. Why did such a thing happen? Why did no one stop the Tsang clan from attacking Broken Sword Mountain? Now, the 2 great emperors were talking about uniting the entire third heaven to fight against the enemy together. They talked about righteousness, unity, fraternity, and mutual help. But now, they were dealing with the relatives of their hero. If it were not for the fact that Luli had come back, the Yin family would have been wiped out. All of Luli's families had died as well, right? For the sake of the human race, Luli was not afraid of death. He blew up the altar. Otherwise, the ancestral demon would have descended long ago, and the human race would have been annihilated. Luli had made such a great contribution, and now someone wanted to murder his family? The most important thing was that the upper echelons of the human race were indifferent. This made people feel bitterly disappointed. Why did countless martial artists flock to the 2 battlefields? Although some of them did it for resources and opportunities, but most of the martial artists did it to protect the third layer of heaven, to protect their families and loved ones. After all, if the nest was overturned, there would be no intact eggs. Many people fought in blood. Many shed blood on the battlefields, and many died without leaving a complete body. But their clansmen might be murdered, so what was the point of them fighting? The upper echelons of the human race couldn't even uphold basic justice. What was the point of having a commander like this? The unity that Reincarnation Emperor and other upper echelons of the human race had built up with great difficulty was on the verge of collapse. If the human race was not united, then how could they survive this catastrophe? Could they fight against hundreds of millions of abyssal warriors with just some great Emperor Realm warriors? Not to mention that many great Emperor Realm warriors were not happy about this. On the third day, Reincarnation Emperor issued a notice in a strict tone. The notice was all on Lu Li's side. Reincarnation Emperor asked for an explanation from the Tsang family. If they could not satisfy Lu Li, he would seek justice for Lu Li in person. Reincarnation Emperor had made a clear stand on Lu Li's side. If he had any concerns before, he had nothing to worry about after Lu Li showed up and suppressed the Tsang family with great Emperor Realm warriors. Next, Emperor Candleheaven issued a notice as well. In the notice, he apologized to the world, stating that he was not in charge. How could such a thing happen at the chilly Winterland? He had asked 3 great Emperor Realm warriors to investigate this matter. In a few days, he would give an explanation to Lu Li and the Yin family. At the same time, he stated righteously that before the abyssal warriors left, if he found any more killings among the human race, he would personally kill the family patriarch that started the trouble. With just one notice, Emperor Candleheaven absolved himself of all responsibility. He also stated with righteous words that if something like this happened again in the future, he would punish severely and maintain his image of selflessness. Of course, no matter how hard he tried to clear his name, Emperor Candleheaven's prestige was inevitably weakened. People were not idiots. How could they not know when something happened right under their noses? What was more, the Tsang family and the Yin family had been in conflict for a long time. The war did not break out all of a sudden. The war had been going on for half a year. No matter how ill-informed they were, they should know about it. What was more, he was the commander of the Southern Theater of Operations. If they didn't even know about such a big thing, then what right did they have to be the commander? Did they not know if an army from the abyssal warriors went into the hinterland of the human race or the godly windland? Many things were well known, but they would not point it out. However, once the matter was brought to the surface, everyone would become sanctimonious and righteous. 3 great Emperor Realm warriors went to the Tsang family to investigate and soon came back with a report. Emperor Candleheaven also issued an announcement. This was indeed the Tsang family's fault. There was no need for discussion or trial. He punished the Tsang family on behalf of the southern battlefield. He ordered all warriors above the peak of the 4th tribulation realm of the Tsang family and the other 30 families to join the southern battlefield and serve for 10,000 years within 3 months. Otherwise, they could be free after the army from the abyssal warriors left. If the Tsang family was not willing to accept the punishment, then Emperor Candleheaven would kill all the powerful warriors of the Tsang family in person. After the news spread out, the 3rd heaven quieted down. This was a heavy punishment. If all the powerful warriors above the peak of the 4th tribulation realm of the Tsang family went to the battlefield, then the Tsang family would not be able to protect their territory. If all the core forces of the Tsang family went to the battlefield, many of them would die or even be wiped out. The Tsang family was finished. Even if some of the powerful warriors survived, the Tsang family and the other dozens of families were destined to be defeated. If they couldn't protect their territory, then they could only shrink their forces. Without territory, there would be no resources. Without resources, how could they nurture powerful warriors on a large scale? If they couldn't nurture powerful warriors continuously, when all their powerful warriors died in the southern battlefield, how could they rise again? Other than the feud with the Yin family, Tsang family definitely had other enemies. No one might target the Tsang family in a short period of time, but after a long time, there would definitely be old demons or powerful forces coveting the wealth that the Tsang family had accumulated over the years. If the Tsang family didn't hide well, then they might be exterminated. Chapter 2843. Luli didn't say anything else after the matter was settled. Ian family sent a message in private, stating that they accepted the punishment and that the hundreds of thousands of captives could be sent to the battlefield. Those at the third plane of chaos all thought this was the right thing to do. The Tsang family said that they would obey unconditionally. They would summon all warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation to the battlefield. On the surface, this was the right thing to do. However, the major families and the emperors were well aware that it was the two families that were behind the scheme, and the two superfamilies were not involved. From the beginning to the end, the Tsang family had been a weapon, a tool for the two families. Now that they had committed the crime, the weapon was useless. They had to take the blame. That being said, the fact that the Tsang family could take the blame meant that the two families had given in and could not stand the pressure anymore. Also, there was no evidence. A group of emperors could not wipe out the Wu family and the Shan family when they were facing formidable enemies. The two super families had many emperors as friends. In that case, the human race would be divided and the favorable situation would be ruined. Emperor Candleheaven had set the tone. If Reincarnation Emperor and the others were still not satisfied, then the relationship with Emperor Candleheaven would be strained. The entire situation would be affected. By then, the Asmodeans would laugh their heads off. For this reason, Reincarnation Emperor sent a message telling Lu Li to be patient. He also asked Lu Li to go to the northern plains after the matter was settled, and he would explain to Lu Li in person. Reincarnation Emperor enjoyed a high status. Even though Lu Li was unhappy, he didn't dare to make a scene. He was no match for Phoenix Queen and Sunlight Emperor, given his current abilities. If he were to start a war against the two families, he would be the one to suffer. Lu Li stayed at the Broken Sword Mountain for 3 days. He was almost done dealing with the aftermath. He asked Yin Xingxi to take him to the secret realm where Lu Renhuang, Jiang Qiling, and the others were. The secret realm was well hidden. The entrance was not at the Broken Sword Mountain, but in a mountain with a secret castle nearby. The mountain was connected to a small secret realm which had nothing inside except for another passageway that led to a larger secret realm. Less than 10 people of the Yin family knew about this secret realm. The entrances and exits were covered with powerful runes. It would take at least more than 10 days for average warriors to crack them open. This was a very secret base of the Yin family, and also a very safe base. Aside from the people of the Lu clan, there were only a few hundred of the Yin clan's core disciples in this base. There is also a quasi-emperor standing guard outside, which showed how much the Yin clan valued the people of the Lu clan. Lu Li was grateful when he learned about this. Yin Xingxi led her and Lu Ling into the small secret realm and found the entrance. The divine inscriptions here were strong. It would take at least a dozen days for those below the Great Emperor realm to crack it. The emperor-to-be guarding here had been informed. Old as he was, he treated Lu Li with respect. The Emperor realm was the Emperor realm. This was a different realm. The third heaven represented the pinnacle of martial artists and should be respected. Lu Li was not at the Emperor realm. Even if he were, he wouldn't dare to put on airs in front of the patriarchs of the Yin family. Then, the emperor-to-be activated the rune, and Lu Li and the others entered the tunnel. As a matter of fact, the secret area was a primitive one. As soon as Lu Li stepped in, he felt the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was dense, and there were marks of Tao everywhere. Not even Yin Xingxi knew about this primitive secret area. This was one of the biggest secrets of the Yin family. It was Emperor Zi who found this secret area. As soon as Lu Li stepped in, he used psychic power to check. His psychic power was so strong that it covered half of the secret area. He found a small city in the middle of the secret area. There were not many people in the city, only about 1,000. Many of them were not in the mood to cultivate. They gathered together to discuss and speculate about what was going on outside. They were all in fear. Jiang Qiling, Bai Qiuxue, Bai Xiaoshuang, Prajna, and Qi Shi'er were gathered together. Tom had not changed their looks much. They were not powerful, but they were about the same age as Lu Li. At this realm, they could live for tens of thousands of years. Therefore, they all looked like beautiful young ladies. They were not in the mood to cultivate. They gathered together and chatted. None of them seemed to be worried, but every now and then there would be a glow in their eyes. There was a hint of sadness. When Luli checked with psychic power, Prajna trembled and her eyes became misty. Noticing this, Chioshu asked in confusion, "Prajna, what is it?" Prajna trembled again. She suppressed her urge to rush out. Taking a deep breath, she said, "Sister." "Chioshu, my dear sisters, my darling is back." "What?" The young ladies trembled. Jiang Qiling got the confirmation from Prajna's eyes. She led the others outside at once. When they sensed a familiar divine will, they were so excited that they shot up into the sky. "What?" Lu Renhuang, Qin Zhan, Gan Lin, and the others were still cultivating. They all stood up in surprise when they saw this. Soon, they also felt a familiar psychic power. Qin Zhan, who was impatient, flew out from the window directly and shouted, "Lu Li, is that you?" "Ha ha ha." Lu Li's loud laughter came from the distance. Everyone in the city was alarmed. Many people flew over and looked to the south. Whoosh! 3 people flew over. They were so fast that they were in front of everyone in a blink. The familiar white hair, the familiar cyan robe, the well-defined faces and the bright eyes. Lu Li's looks didn't change. The only difference was that his chi and energy were stronger and his eyes were more profound. He was like a mountain that people could never look at and could never surpass. Tears welled up in their eyes. How many years had it been since Lu Li came to the 3rd heaven from the 2nd heaven? Lu Renhuang couldn't remember clearly, but it had been at least hundreds of years. For the mortal world, it was several lifetimes. They could live long, but hundreds of years was a long time for them. It was as if they hadn't seen each other for several lifetimes. Linger. Lu Renhuang saw Lu Ling next to Lu Li. Even though she was wearing a veil, he recognized her right away. Tears welled up in his eyes. As a man of iron and blood, he would never cry no matter how tired he was. But now he could not hold back his tears. "Father!" Lu Li and Lu Ling flew to Lu Renhuang and dropped to their knees at the same time. Lu Li kowtowed to Lu Renhuang and said, "I am not a good son. I have made you worry." Lu Ling took off her veil and said with guilt, "I am not a good son. Not only have I made you worry, but I have not been able to serve you all these years. I am sorry. Let's not talk about this. Get up, get up." Lu Renhuang helped them up at once. He wiped off his tears and grinned. "It's good that you are okay. It's good that you are okay. Everything is good as long as you are safe and sound." Lu Li and Lu Renhuang nodded. They looked at Jiang Qiling and the others. Looking into their affectionate eyes, Lu Li said with guilt, "Qiling, Chioshu, Shashuang, sure, Prajna, you have suffered. I am sorry." Tears ran down from Xiaoshuang's eyes. Chioshu smiled brightly. Qixir was blushing and Prajna's eyes were filled with affection. Only Jiang Qiling was calm. She said, "Darling, you can come back safely. No matter how much we have suffered, it is worth it. Welcome home." P.S. The matter was settled at night. Chapter 5 tomorrow. Chapter 2844. Soon, the crippled Zen master smiled and said, "Lu Li, we can give you people and anything you want, but we don't want the territory. You have enough reputation and power. If it weren't for you, the Yin family would have been doomed. The territory belongs to you, and the Yin family will support you fully." "I don't want the territory." Lu Li realized that the crippled Zen master seemed to have misunderstood him. Lu Li said in a hurry, "The Lu family does not have many people, and we are weak. What do we need so many territories and resources for? I don't need any resources for my own cultivation now. Say no more. The territory belongs to the Yin family. I'm just helping you get it. Also, do I really have to be so clear about my relationship with the Yin family?" With that said, Lu Li turned to Yin Qingxi. Yin Qingxi had calmed down, but her cheeks were blushing again. She glared at Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, you are only an honorary patriarch of the Yin family. Don't overthink it. Don't make it sound like the Yin family is all yours. Ha ha ha." Lu Li and the crippled Zen master laughed. Yin Qingxi couldn't stay here any longer. She snorted and left. The crippled Zen master looked at her fondly and said, "Luli, Qingxi is a good girl. Treat her well." The crippled Zen master knew Luli well. He never thought that Luli would annex the Yin family after marrying Yin Qingxi. It was certain that Luli would reach the Great Emperor realm. A warrior of the Great Emperor realm could build a super family at any time. The property of the Yin family was nothing for a warrior of the Great Emperor realm. On the other hand, the Yin family could develop with Luli's help. Without Luli, the Yin family would have a hard time in the future. Luli was right. The Lu family didn't need to occupy such a large territory, and they couldn't manage it all. The Lu family was composed of warriors of the second and third tribulations. There were only several hundred of them, and they wouldn't consume too many resources. The Yin family would take the territory first. They could provide whatever the Lu family wanted. "I think I need to get closer to the Lu family." The crippled Zen master thought about how to get closer. The best way was through marriage. The genius disciple of the Yin clan would marry the young mistress of the Lu clan's faction, and the young mistress of the Yin clan would marry the young disciple of the Lu clan's faction. In this way, the two clans would have each other in them, and they would be closer to each other, wouldn't they? On this thought, the crippled Zen master looked at Lu Li with even more complicated feelings. Back in the 9 universes, Lu Li was a nobody to him. Even when Lu Li came to the third heaven and came to the broken sword mountain, Lu Li's future was only slightly promising. At that time, in his mind, Lu Li being able to become a lord was already incredible, and it would take him many years. However, after only a few years, Lu Li had become a famous warrior in the third heaven and was about to reach the Emperor realm. Lu Li was famous now, and he had the support of the Reincarnation Emperor. He hadn't survived the third heaven's catastrophe yet. Therefore, if nothing went wrong, nobody would dare to target Lu Li. If Lu Li was given hundreds or thousands of years, he would grow into a powerful emperor who could look down upon the third heaven and become a real overlord. By then, the Yin family could rely on Lu Li to develop rapidly and restore the glory of the era of Emperor Z. As the follower of the Purple Arch, the crippled Zen old man had always wanted to develop the Yin family. He knew that he could never reach the Emperor realm in this lifetime. Now that he saw Lu Li, he saw hope. 3 days later, Lu Li took action. He sent out a notice through the Yi family. It was an outrageous notice, but it was open and above board. He meant that the Tsang family had been punished for their immorality, but they were no longer qualified to govern the Tsang Yin territory and the other 4 areas. The Lu family would lead an army to take over the 4 areas for now. The Tsang family and the dozens of other families were requested to leave the 6 areas at once, or the Lu family would drive them out by force. Lu Li announced to the entire chilly winterland. His intention could not be clearer. He wanted the 6 regions and the Tsang family to leave immediately. Otherwise, he would kill his way over. That was what Lu Li did. After the notice was sent out, he led an army of 100,000 to the Tsang Yin territory. The army was small, and the number of powerful warriors was small. There were only 3 warriors of the 6th tribulation, and they were not the patriarchs of the Yi family on the surface. They were the hidden forces of the Yi family. The army of 100,000 was not from the Yi family. They were the righteous warriors that were gathered recently. The chilly winter continent was shocked when the news spread out. The Tsang family's territories were like pieces of juicy meat. Many families were eyeing them, but nobody dared to make a move at this moment. They didn't expect that Lu Li would make a move. He even announced to the entire continent and invaded directly. The Tsang family asked for help from the Wu family and the Shan family at once. The Tsang family announced that they would accept the punishment from Emperor Candle Heaven unconditionally. That was because the higher-ups of the Wu family and the Shan family had promised that they would take care of the Tsang family. Not all the higher-ups of the Tsang family would perish in the battlefield. They would protect the Tsang family's territory and people. Lu Li had invaded with an army. Even though there were only 100,000 warriors and 3 lords, Lu Li alone was as powerful as an army of 1,000,000. All the powerful warriors of the Tsang family had gone to the front line. The Tsang family had no more powerful warriors. How could they stop Lu Li's army? Sunlight Emperor and Phoenix Empress heard the news. Surprisingly, their replies were the same: to let the Tsang family stir up public opinion and ask many families to condemn Lu Li. When the public opinion was one-sided, they could ask Emperor Candleheaven to do justice. Not long ago, Emperor Candleheaven made an announcement that he would personally kill the family patriarch of the family that started the trouble if anyone dared to fight among themselves. As long as the public opinion was on Lu Li's side, Emperor Candleheaven could come out and do justice openly. The Tsang family used their connections at once and made many promises. 5 days later, some big families finally came out and condemned Lu Li. Didn't Lu Li say that the human race could not fight among themselves before the catastrophe was over? The Tsang family had accepted the punishment unconditionally. Why would they start another war? Several families of the chilly winter continent came out to condemn Lu Li. The main reason was that the big families had their eyes on this piece of meat. Now that Lu Li had made it clear that he was going to swallow them up, how could they let him go? Lu Li didn't stop because of these announcements. He had already conquered the first city of the Tsangyan region. It was almost effortless for Jiang Yi to take down this big city. After he broke through the city's city-protecting array, the city lord and his men surrendered. Lu Li responded to those big families through the announcement sent out by the Yin family. His words were arrogant and overbearing. What he meant was the Tsang family was so insane that the civilians in the area were living in misery under the leadership of the Tsang family. As long as the Tsang family backed out, Lu Li wouldn't kill anyone. The Tsang family didn't have an army or powerful warriors to control such a vast territory. Without a powerful family to govern, there would be chaos everywhere. The ones who would suffer would be the innocent civilians. Also, Lu Li warned those families not to be accomplices to the evildoer. They were standing up for the Tsang family. Were they involved in the attack on the Yin family as well? If those families continued to get involved, Lu Li would find out if they were one of the masterminds behind the scenes. A threat, a naked threat. There was only one meaning in Lu Li's announcement. Anyone who dared to make noise would be making himself an enemy of Lu Li. By then, Lu Li wouldn't care so much. He would just wipe out all the families. Chapter 28:45. Emperor Candleheaven was enraged. He had just made the announcement, and now Lu Li had invaded the territory of the Tsang family. This was a blatant challenge to his authority. Because of what happened to the Tsang family, Emperor Candleheaven had lost his prestige. Now that Lu Li was provoking him like this, he would be humiliated. But what could he do? Reprimand Lu Li directly? Or send a warrior of great emperor to stop Lu Li and kill him? Emperor Candleheaven had nothing to worry about when Lu Li was alone. But Lu Li had the reincarnation emperor behind him. Normally, Emperor Candleheaven would send someone to kill Lu Li even if Lu Li had the support of the reincarnation emperor. But what time was it now? The abyss of demons were eyeing at him. Something big had just happened, and the human race was unstable. If Lu Li and the reincarnation emperor were to have a dispute, it would affect the unity of the human army. The abyss of demons might have a chance to take advantage. By then, everyone would be doomed. The bigger picture, Emperor Candleheaven decided to swallow the humiliation. After all, it was Lu Li who had been wronged. It was okay for a young man to make a fuss and take some territory. He was a man of virtue and prestige. If he were to argue with a child, it would make others feel that he was disrespectful, and it would damage his status. Therefore, he didn't do anything himself. He only asked a warrior of great emperor to send a vague message: "Don't go too far." Lu Li smiled when he got the message. Emperor Candleheaven wouldn't do anything rash, even if he died before the attack. After all, the human race was divided. At this rate, the morale of the human army would collapse, and the third heaven would be doomed. The Tsang family received the message as well. It was vague, but they knew clearly that they had been abandoned. If they didn't give up their territory, then everyone in the Tsang family would be killed. In the end, the Tsang family and the dozens of families started to migrate to the Wind Continent. Phoenix Empress gave them an area so that the Tsang family and the 33 families could have a place to settle down. Otherwise, the Tsang family and the dozens of families would all be killed. What else could they do? Fight to the death to prove their loyalty? It would be nice if they could gain some reputation by dying. The problem was the way the third heaven was going. They were the guilty ones, and Lu Li was the hero. Even if they all died in battle, they would have died in vain. If he retreated to the divine wind continent, he would have the protection of the Phoenix Empress. It was not impossible for him to rise again. Lu Li's army of 100,000 marched on like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Along the way, they conquered dozens of cities every day. As a matter of fact, it was more like taking over than taking over. Lu Li only needed to send some warriors to take over the cities. After much consideration, Lu Li decided to only occupy 4 areas. He left the other 2 areas unclaimed. He secretly sent out a message that he would give up the 2 areas and let the virtuous ones have them. A tall tree attracts the wind. The Yin family's territory was huge to begin with. Now, they occupied 4 regions, which are the most fertile regions. It was enough for the Yin family and the Lu family to develop. Right now, the Yin family's territory was second only to those few Thear-class clans. The Yin family had already suffered many casualties, and they had also lost a lot of troops. They occupied too much territory, and management was a problem. Many big families had their eyes on this piece of meat. If Lu Li took all of it, those families would hate him. Now that he had given up 2, those families would think that Lu Li was being sensible. Didn't great monarch Candle Heaven say to stop before going too far? If he only took 4, great monarch Candle Heaven would have nothing to say. Those Thear-class clans would think that Lu Li knew when to advance and when to retreat. The family patriarch and patriarchs of the Yin family were the busiest. On the surface, the 4 areas belonged to the Lu family, but Lu Li was not in charge. He left everything to the Yin family after he took over the areas. Lu Renhuang came out from the secret realm and became the lord of the Gray Cloud territory, the family patriarch of the Lu family on the surface. Lu Ling had been busy as well. Giving the areas to the Yin family didn't mean that the Lu family didn't want their territory. Lu Ling regarded her as a member of the Lu family. Therefore, she was actively planning for the Lu family and looking for a place to stay. In the end, she set her sights on a big city at the border between the west of the Tsangyan territory and the Broken River territory. This city was called Tsang He City. It was a very important city for the Tsang clan, and it was also the gathering place of the Tsang clan's largest branch. There were 6 spirit veins and mines near the city, and most importantly, it was the entrance to the primitive mystic realm. The veins and mines represented a large number of materials which could be sold or traded for cultivation resources. There was also a primitive secret realm here, which could be used to train powerful warriors. Lu Ling and the family patriarch of the Yin family proposed to make this the base camp of the Lu family and let the Yin family take charge of the other areas. Naturally, the family patriarch of the Yin family agreed. He wouldn't say a word if he could give the 4 areas to the Lu family, let alone a city, a primitive secret realm, and several veins. After all, it was Lu Li who conquered the 4 areas. Lu Ling changed the name of this place to the City of Mystic Armor and began to make arrangements. She was going to the northern plains with Lu Li. But since she had to settle the base camp of the Lu family, she couldn't go back. For her, the Lu family was the top priority. Nothing else mattered. The Lu family was too weak. For Lu Ling, Lu Renhuang, Prajna, Jiang Qiling, and Qinjian were too weak. They might be able to reach the 2nd heaven, but not the 3rd heaven. The population of the Lu family was small. Disciples of the Lu family were the core. Otherwise, no matter how many powerful warriors from other races were recruited, it would be pointless. Could Lu Li be the Lu family all by himself? The Lu family needed to train powerful warriors quickly and in large numbers. At the very least, the Lu family had to have warriors of the 4th tribulation and a group of warriors of the 5th tribulation to be considered a big family. Therefore, Lu Ling formulated some strategies. First of all, she had to expand the family. It would take some time to produce more. Then, she would have to go to the second heaven to mobilize more warriors. The Lu family at the second heaven had developed to a certain extent. It would not be a problem to mobilize thousands of warriors. When the thousands were trained, they could become the foundation of the Lu family. The other issue was safety. In the beginning, Lu Ling didn't want the Lu family to take root here. After all, the chilly winter continent was the southern theater of operations. But on second thought, if the chilly winter continent could not hold out, it would be a sign that the human race would be utterly defeated. It would not be safe for the Lu family to go to any continent, not even the second heaven. The chilly winter continent was close to the Yin family. Luli had done a great favor for the Yi family. The Yin family would do their best to help the Lu family grow. Regarding safety, Luli took care of the design himself. Blood Fairy's attainments in divine inscriptions could not be compared to the average divine inscriptionist. She had studied many ancient divine inscriptions and even went to the endless ruins to study the powerful ones. Blood Fairy was confident that she could build some divine patterns that could withstand attack from Emperor warriors for a few days. Of course, if it were Heaven Torch or Reincarnation Emperor, the divine patterns would not stand for more than 2 hours. But at that point, it would be pointless to rely on the divine patterns. The Yin family sent over a master of divine patterns to build a large teleportation formation directly connected to the Broken Sword Mountain. The distance was not too far. They could be teleported over in 2 hours. Once something happened, the powerful warriors of the Broken Sword Mountain could come to help immediately. The Lu family could teleport over as well. Another thing was to recruit powerful warriors. Luli was at the Emperor warrior realm. Naturally, there would be followers. Those who had made great contributions to the Lu family could share the benefits. What if Luli became a saint emperor? After 3 months of hard work, the Lu family at the city of Mystic Armor finally took shape. The Lu family had a base at the third heaven. Luli relocated all the Lu family members here. He and Lu Ling were ready to go to the northern plains. Chapter 2846. Before he went to the northern plains, Luli wanted to go to the Lin Sun city. Yin Qingxi objected at once, and Lu Renhuang expressed his concern as well. Lu Renhuang had devoted himself to cultivation, but he knew that no matter how hard he tried, he could never surpass Lu Li. Therefore, after he became the family patriarch of the Lu family on the surface, he began to learn more about the third heaven. Lu Li was in charge of important matters. Every family needed someone to manage it. Lu Ling was from the Dragon Rebel race, and she could not manage the chores for the Lu family all the time. Therefore, Lu Renhuang had learned a lot about the third heaven, and he knew that Emperor Candle Heaven was not fond of Lu Li. Lu Li was walking right into a trap by going to the Lin Sun city. No. Before Lu Li could explain, Lu Ling said, Lu Li really should go to the Lin Sun city and send an invitation to Emperor Candle Heaven. Don't worry. If Emperor Candle Heaven wants to do something to my brother, no place will be safe. The Lu family will not be safe here. Don't worry. Luli might run into trouble in other places, but he will be fine in the Lin Sun city. Lu Renhuang trusted her wisdom. Yin Qingxi had been helping the Lu family recently. Lu Renhuang nodded after a moment of consideration. Lu Renhuang nodded. Lu Li said with a smile, "He is the commander-in-chief of the Southern Theater of Operations. I am back and I must pay him a visit. If I do, he will not dare to do anything to the Lu family openly. He will even have to think of ways to protect the Lu family. Otherwise, it will be his dereliction of duty." Lu Renhuang was anxious as well. He nodded at Lu Li's analysis and said, "Lu Li, go and do what you need to do. You don't have to worry about the Lu family. Lady Qingxi will help us. After a period of time, we will gradually bring the second heaven clansmen here. We will also bring your grandfather and great-grandfather here. You don't have to worry about the development and growth of the family. Just take care of your own safety." "Okay. Thank you, father." Lu Li cupped his fists and nodded to Yin Qingxi and Lu Ling. He left the castle and went to the teleportation formation in the backyard. From here, he could teleport to the Broken Sword Mountain and open a space gate from the Yi family to the Lin Sun city. The city of Mystic Armor was ready. Two sixth tribulation warriors of the En family were stationed here all year round. The people of the Liu family had all settled down. Most of them were living in the Liu castle in the north of the city. This castle had a space door that was connected to the primitive mystic realm. Hanya, Qi Shi'er, and Autumn Snow had already gone to the primitive secret realm to cultivate. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin had also gone to cultivate. There were also some young elites who had gone to cultivate. The mission Luli gave them was to grow as fast as they could. They had to reach the peak of the fourth tribulation at the very least. That was the only way they could manage the Liu family. The formations in the city were all set up. Several places with resources and treasures nearby were under their control. Recently, many families had come to visit the Liu family. It was Liu Renhuang who was in charge of receiving them. Liu Renhuang's abilities were weak, but none of the family patriarchs and patriarchs dared to belittle him. After all, he was Liu Li's father. Liu Li went to the Broken Sword Mountain, where the En family could build the portal quickly. After all, it was just a portal to the Cold Haze City. It was not a big deal. The family was busy as well. With the addition of 4 fields, it would take a long time and energy to control such a large territory. 3 days later, the portal was built. The crippled Zen master wanted to go with Liu Li, but Liu Li declined politely. The Linsun city was not a dangerous place. Liu Li was just going to have a look. Whoosh! Above the Linsun city, a teleportation gate appeared. Liu Li flew out and was targeted by many psychic powers. The city was bustling with noise and excitement when they realized that it was Liu Li. This young master was in the limelight recently. Even though many people were targeting him, Liu Li behaved calmly. He flew to the largest castle, found a leader there, and said, "I am Liu Li. I am here to see Emperor Candle Heaven and Emperor Chu. Please introduce me to you." This was the territory of the Chu family. Naturally, the warriors here belonged to the Chu family. The leader saluted back with respect. "General Yongyi, our family patriarch is not here. As for Emperor Candle Heaven's whereabouts, I don't know. How about I take you to our family patriarch first?" Okay. Liu Li could vaguely tell that there was a luxurious manor at the north of the city where there were many powerful warriors. Clearly, there were warriors of the great emperor realm living there. That being said, Liu Li's seniority and abilities were much lower than those of the great emperor realm. It was better for him to keep a low profile. The leader took out 2 chariots. Dozens of warriors led the way, and the chariots drove toward the north of the city in a formidable array. As soon as Liu Li arrived at the manor, there was already a quasi-emperor waiting at the gate. "I am Chu Liu, the chief patriarch of the Chu family." The quasi-emperor cupped his fists and said with a smile, "General Yongyi, you have come to the Lin Sun city. You have brought glory to the Chu family. Our family patriarch asked me to welcome you in. Please." The Chu family was gracious enough to send a chief patriarch to greet Liu Li. Liu Li followed the chief patriarch in a manner after some polite greetings. On the way, Liu Li felt many vague psychic powers were probing him. He could also tell that some young masters and young ladies in some tall buildings were peeping at him with curiosity. After several turns, Liu Li arrived at a hall. At the door of the hall, an old man in a luxurious robe was waiting with more than a dozen warriors of the Sixth Tribulation. The Chu family was gracious enough for the current family patriarch of the Chu family to come out and greet Liu Li in person. Liu Li exchanged some pleasantries and then went to chat for a while. The family patriarch of the Chu family vaguely indicated that Emperor Chu had been healing and expressed his apologies for what happened a while ago. Since Emperor Chu was healing in closed-door cultivation, it would be inappropriate for them to come out. Liu Li didn't know whether Emperor Chu was in closed-door cultivation or not. But since Emperor Candle Heaven had acquiesced the Song family to attack the En family, Emperor Chu and the Chu family would not be able to stand up for the En family. Liu Li could understand this. He didn't show any dissatisfaction. Instead, he was polite, which made the Chu family feel better about him. Since Emperor Chu could not meet him, then Liu Li had to go to Emperor Candle Heaven. The family patriarch of the Chu family told Liu Li to be patient. He would go and ask for instructions in person and hand over the visiting card for Luli. It was true that Emperor Candleheaven lived in this manner, but average people could not get close or they would be killed. Emperor Candleheaven had an old servant who was also a warrior of the Emperor realm. Even though he was not very powerful, the fact that he had an old servant of the Emperor realm indicated his power and status. 2 hours later, the family patriarch of the Chu family came and asked Luli to come later. Emperor Candleheaven agreed to meet Luli. Also, Emperor Candleheaven called for all the warriors of the Emperor realm in the city to hold a banquet in 4 hours to celebrate the triumphant return of General Yongyi. You old fox, you are so shrewd. Luli didn't show any emotion on his face, but he was sneering inside. He had openly disobeyed the will of Emperor Candleheaven, which was equal to slapping him in the face. Now, Emperor Candleheaven was holding a banquet to welcome Luli. Luli had to admire this shrewdness. For Luli, Emperor Candleheaven was his sworn enemy, the biggest enemy of the third heaven. He had promised the Blood Evil King that as long as he was powerful enough, he would kill Emperor Candleheaven to avenge the Blood Evil King. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.